It's Friday. You know what that means.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 356 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, The F and Marks.
I'm Jay. He is.
I am the brainless one.
Yeah.
Then, now, forever. Together. The brainless one. But,
definitely a lot of I'm not going to say that there was a lot of super monumental things that happened this week, but there was a lot of interesting tidbits out there. Lots of interesting tidbits, and we're going to get into a lot of them, but I think we need to go with the whole enchilada here. I
think that's the best route to go, considering we're not too far removed, like not even 2 weeks removed from the show of shows. And, that people have been speculating where WrestleMania 41 was going to be next year, trying to figure out why they haven't made the decision. Because, in years past, usually WrestleMania weekend is usually when they announce the next venue, if they haven't already. Because I remember a few years back, they announced the next three, and that was the three after COVID.
Right.
And they announced Tampa Bay and Hollywood, and there was one in between Tampa Bay and Hollywood that I don't remember, but that's okay. But it was nice that they did that. A lot of people have been speculating that it's going to be Minnesota. A lot of people have been speculating it could be Tennessee. Hell, they've even speculated it could be overseas, somewhere in either Europe or possibly even in Toronto. I know it's not overseas, but internationally televised, they could do WrestleMania. But we didn't get an actual location. No. We got something a little bit differently.
Yeah.
It came out this week that WWE is contemplating two things. Number one, they're contemplating not having WrestleManias on the East Coast due to weather situations. Understandable. But also because of those same weather situations, and on top of the fact that they don't want WrestleMania coinciding with the Final Four in college basketball, which was very difficult for me that Saturday because UConn was in the Final Four. And They're talking about moving the WrestleMania to May.
It's gonna be May.
What are your thoughts on the possibility of WrestleMania not only possibly staying out of the East Coast, but possibly moving to May?
Quite honestly, I have no problem with it. Honestly, I think it's a good idea. I think it opens up several other markets that they could actually bring the damn show to. Because, you're never going to bring it to Foxborough in February.
No.
You're not going to bring it to Massachusetts in February. I think there are some other places like Cleveland. You would not bring a WrestleMania to an outdoor stadium in Cleveland
no.
April. But if you put it in May, they've already shown their willingness to do outdoor shows in New York City because it's New York City for WrestleMania, right?
Right.
And that they were sitting there crapping their pants hoping that it wasn't going to snow, hoping that it wasn't going to, just be poor conditions. When I was there at WrestleMania 40, yes, it was chilly out night one. All that being said, it wasn't ridiculous. And the thing is, with Philadelphia, around when WrestleMania was, it could have been 30 degrees and snowing, and it could have been 75 degrees and warm. And we ended up with 45 degrees-ish and a steady wind. So I'm okay with them moving it to May because guess what? If you're looking at just the general sports landscape out there, the beginning of May, the one thing they have is the Kentucky Derby. The Kentucky Derby, though, is done by 6 p.m.
Are we sure? Because every year it seems like everything else just keeps getting moved back and back and back because the Super Bowl used to be played in the daytime. When we were growing up as kids, Jay, the Super Bowl started at 6 o'clock. Now It's almost like a 7:30 kickoff for the Super Bowl. And it feels like the same thing with the Kentucky Derby, because it felt like years ago that the race would start at 5. Didn't seem like it was starting at 6. And I could have swore like there was a year that the Kentucky Derby ran at like 6:45, and that's the one thing that kind of kind of irks me, because I'm like, no, see, I would have a problem with that. Not to say that I wouldn't tune into the show of shows, but as a fan of the thoroughbreds, and I do enjoy the Kentucky Derby just as much as WrestleMania. And you've seen it, you know how excited I get for the Kentucky Derby.
Sure.
That is one of my many Christmas days during the year, and none of them are Christmas Day. So for me, yeah, and with my luck, it would be one of those situations where my horse bumped another horse going down the stretch, and it's like 6:52, and WrestleMania is going to kick off in 8 minutes, and I'm sitting there staring at my TV trying to figure out whether or not the 7's going to get brought down, whether or not I win or lose. You think I'm going to tune in? Well, if I got money on it, and I don't think so. So it's one of those situations that, yes, I guess, time-wise, for it to start, I would have a problem with it. But honestly, like you said, that's really the only competition they have is the Kentucky Derby. And the Kentucky Derby doesn't have the mainstream attraction to it like the Super Bowl or the NCAA Final Four or hell, even Daytona 500.
Yeah,
it's more of a niche thing where people can, that tune in, people like us who grew up with it, or me who was born with a daily racing form in my hands. But for me, my only real concern about them moving it to May is that now what are you going to do on your lineup heading into WrestleMania? Because as of right now, it's like you have the Royal Rumble in January, and it's usually at the end of January. And then you have one pay-per-view that's either at the end of February or the beginning of March. And it's like, okay, so you're only going to give us one pay-per-view between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania.
Well, it's easy enough for them to add another pay-per-view. I mean, they used to do a pay-per-view every 2 weeks. But, they usually, like, in the run-up to WrestleMania, to give themselves 6 weeks of building stories.
Yeah.
To go into that. That way, like, you kind of have the pieces in place, but then they do kind of that final, like, all right, this is our final push to WrestleMania. Let's really take the time. Let's do quality stories. I think what they'd end up doing is you'd still get Royal Rumble when you get Royal Rumble. I think we'll still get Elimination Chamber in February. I would just think we would probably get a one of the other premium live events sometime in March.
Here's a thought. If that was the case, they wanted to do that and they wanted to switch things up. If you really wanted to add a different element to it, something that could actually just stick in the back of people's minds heading into WrestleMania season, you move Money in the Bank right before WrestleMania then. That's the pay-per-view you do it in. Because we've seen it now twice. We have seen it now twice where Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase at WrestleMania 31 and won the championship, making it a triple threat. We saw Damian Priest of the Spooky Pals take out Drew McIntyre and become the world heavyweight champion not even 2 weeks ago after he literally got the rug pulled out from underneath. One of the greatest rug pulls of all time, by the way.
Right.
That has superseded. That is now my favorite cash-in of all time. I am so sorry to see CM Punk. But you have been surpassed as the greatest cash-in of all time. But that would add an extra element. That is something that, okay, you put this right before WrestleMania, I would be on board with it because I would want to watch Money in the Bank. I love Money in the Bank. I've always appreciated the concept. I thought it was such an innovative way to guarantee somebody a shot at a championship. I that's the one thing that I've enjoyed. Some of the failed cash-ins and some of the people who have won, I've questioned Jack Swagger over the years, but I think that adding that would make it would just add an extra wrinkle, an extra caveat towards the build to WrestleMania if you were to move Money in the Bank that quickly. And then I would be on board with them doing it in May.
Yeah, I agree with that. Jessica, how you doing? Hope all is well with you.
Yeah.
Chris Brown is saying that Nick Khan said that it's only East Coast open stadiums they're not going back to. Dome stadiums are still in play. I think that's strange. Like, is he saying that they're not going to go to Miami anymore? They're not going to go to Tampa anymore? Please. those are big wrestling markets, and it's warm. They just had that one time when Samoa Joe survived a driving rain for 45 minutes when they were in Tampa a couple of years ago.
Poor Joe.
But, you know, like the Miami WrestleMania went off really well. No problems. You know, the Tampa one, I mean, once the rain cleared, completely fine. You know, in Florida, if you're there, it'll rain for 45 minutes and then be fine.
Granted, it'll be raindrops the size of golf balls for some of these storms, but nevertheless, 45 minutes and every storm is done. Never seen anything like it. It's crazy.
But, you know, I would say, like, some of those warmer climates, it'd be silly of him to just dismiss them.
See, my thing with that is if that's how it's going to be and you want to just not go to all the open arenas and stadiums on the East Coast, I'm the type of person that's like, okay, fine, that's the route you want to go. Okay, I hope the next time you guys do a WrestleMania on the West Coast or in the Midwest, it rains. Just to stick it in your craw. Oh, yeah, well, we're going to avoid the East Coast because it's got rain. Well, you know, it rains in Seattle, too.
All the time.
All the time.
And that, hey, that was one of my favorite WrestleManias, WrestleMania 19. They did that in Seattle. That was right when they opened up the new stadium there, Safeco Field.
That was Rockin' Austin 3, correct?
It was.
Okay.
It was also Jericho and Shawn Michaels. It was Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle.
That's a hell of a card.
It is. And there were plenty of other good matches on that one. I might be wrong with this. That might have been the infamous Booker T and Triple H one, too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was the year, I want to say it was the year after Jericho, so yeah.
But anyway, I have zero problem with them moving it to May. They could certainly pivot and you know, put a premium live event sometime in March. You know, if they're doing the gimmick, if they're doing the Elimination Chamber in February still, I mean, that's another thing they could do. They could move Elimination Chamber to March and, you know, put like Great Balls of Fire in February.
I knew you were going to say that. How did I know you were going to say Great Balls of Fire?
They used to put Backlash in February, but now they turned it into WrestleMania Backlash, and the name makes sense.
It's going to be a hell of a... The card so far for that show in France is looking really good. I have my opinions, you know, now that we've seen the true triple threat matches that have led to the main event, you know, for tonight, that the winner is going up against Cody Rhodes, where we're going to get the phenomenal AJ Styles versus L.A. Knight. Yeah. And it's one of those situations that even though it is a WrestleMania rematch that we're getting right after WrestleMania 2 weeks later, it's gotten to a point where it's like, okay, they had to win matches to get here. You're not just booking a stupid rematch from a show that we were once upon a time paying $50 to $60 for on free television, not even a week after WrestleMania. I think this is great, but I'm going to tell you this much. AJ Styles is winning tonight.
Oh, and he should. You know, LA Knight got the huge win on the show of shows.
Yep.
But if you want a man to help push Cody Rhodes forward and get a very credible win without, you know, damaging. I mean, AJ Styles at this point is a made guy. He's in his mid-40s, and he still goes really well in the ring and can make anybody look, pardon the expression, phenomenal.
He's one of the top I've ever seen perform in the ring. He's a guy that I have admired for 20 years for what he's done in the ring. And I'm going to tell you this much. It makes a lot of sense, too, because if AJ Styles wrestles Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship, AJ Styles will become the first person ever to have wrestled Cody and Dusty Rhodes in a championship match. Because once upon a time, AJ Styles wrestled the American Dream, the son of a plumber, Dusty Rhodes, for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. That is long-term storytelling at its finest. And that's the dream, baby. That's the dream, baby. But I think, like you said, he's the right person. And honestly, nothing against LA Knight. Him getting in that spot is just, it's not going to do anything good for him because you already know he's going to lose. Because whoever's getting into this spot is going to be the one that's going to give Cody his first victory as now the WWE undisputed champion, no longer Universal.
Right. So,
but to go back to the whole thing with May, I'm starting to warn. At first, I wasn't a huge fan of the idea because I've always loved having WrestleMania either at the end of March, which they've done before, or at the beginning of April. And it's always just like, cause it's always that thing where it's like it goes from St. Patty's Day to the NCAA tournament to WrestleMania to the start of baseball season to the NFL draft. That has always been one of my favorite stretches of just anything. It's just that time from St. Patty's Day right until the NFL draft. It's one of the best month and a half because everything is there. But moving it to May, that's fine. It gives me something to look forward to in May instead of just watching 20 horses run around the track and see which one of them is going to break my heart or break down at the track.
Right. You did mention St. Patrick's Day.
I did.
And there happened to be a certain Irish performer who made his long-awaited return to the WWE ring this Monday on Monday Night Raw. Take it away, Brainless One.
Cousin Jay, they've been doing this a lot lately. I swear to you. And nothing against what happened with Rhea Ripley. We'll get into that, in a bit. But I swear, Jay, they are trying to tailor Monday Night Raw to me. After the whole Rhea Ripley thing, they did the thing with R-Truth and The Miz. We'll get into that too, because I really wanted to talk about that as well, because that was Emmy worthy. I enjoyed the hell out of that. I went back and watched it 6 times already. But they've been touting it. They made the announcement last week that the Sheamus was coming back this week. And as you could tell, there's not a human being on planet Earth that is going to be happier to see Sheamus when he returns. And he came out and, yes, he was a little... He definitely looks like a married man. That's all I'm going to say. He definitely looks like a married man. And I don't care what he looks like. Sheamus is back. And I remember, and it was starting off with the normal thing with his old, his fighting Irish song. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And it's a shameful thing. I've lost my shit. I almost no, that's not the song, is it? And I hear too many limes. I was almost in tears. It was, Jay, I said it. I don't even care. I don't care what happened with Bucky Beaver. I don't care. I even said it after it happened. I said there's only a few exceptions to the rule. Sheamus returning with either shameful thing or winning the Intercontinental Championship is the only 2 things that can supersede Bucky Beaver winning my markout moment of the year. And you know what? I got the one of the 2 things I wanted. His GOAT song is back. I am so happy. And I'm happy he's back. He looks strong. I don't care that he was, he packed on a couple of pounds. He looked strong. He looked like Sheamus.
Oh, by the way, how many times, like when Triple H came back, did he look out of shape?
Brock Lesnar looked like shit the night he returned to WWE at F5 John Cena. I even mentioned that about Brock Lesnar. I mentioned
by the way, their version of being in bad shape is more in shape than all the neckbeards on the internet who are trolling Sheamus for having a few pounds. Sheamus came out there and said, all of us out here who are wrestling fans are like, dude, what's going on with Sheamus? He sounded like he was ready, willing, and able to come back a long time ago. And then, he made some comments yeah, I thought I was going to have to hang up my boots forever. And stuff just started happening and some kind of miraculous things happened. And now I've been cleared. And I thought I was going to have until the draft to get myself, together.
Right.
But, they made the call and wanted me to come back a few weeks earlier. So here I am, and I'm going to be in the gym from now until oblivion, it sounds like.
I don't doubt it either, because I've seen his Celtic Warrior workouts. Those are a lot of fun, and I love how he implements all the different wrestlers into his workouts. My guess is, I'd say by the draft he's going to look good by next week. I don't think so, But I mean, you give him maybe a month in the gym, and you're going to see the old Sheamus back, and that's fine with me.
Man, his arms are still jacked. His legs are still jacked.
He's still strong. He lifted up Ivar, whatever is the Viking experience. And they mentioned the Viking experience. He lifted him up.
But by the way, Sheamus ain't no spring chicken.
Nope.
It's harder as you get older to maintain that. I know it's incredible to see AJ Styles looking the way he does, the way that Randy Orton looks the way he does, Bobby Lashley looking the way he does. If Sheamus was dealing with something that was a career-threatening injury, I bet it in some way prevented him from doing certain things in the gym or in his cardio. I'm not going to put a lot of, pardon the expression, I'm not going to put a lot of weight into that. Sheamus knows what he needs to do. He's still freaking Sheamus. He didn't come back with those stupid braids in his hair. It
was in his beard. He had the mohawk. It was the mohawk with the.
I didn't mind the mohawk. It was the braids that were.
That's what I said. I said the mohawk's kind of cool. I'm not an overly huge fan of mohawks, but he rocked the shit out of that. But the braids in the beard, no, that was bad. As a Sheamus fan, I can tell you straight up that was bad. But like you said, I don't care. I'm happy. I got my favorite wrestler back, and he is back in WWE, and he's going to either challenge for one of the big titles or he's going for the Intercontinental title, and I can't be any happier. The only way I could be happier is if Claudio Castagnoli somehow gets out of his contract, re-signs with WWE, and we get the bar back. That's it. They didn't just set the bar, they were the bar.
Yeah.
They're over there, too. But I was very happy. I was glad he got his song back. I've only been tweeting about it for years. Commenting on his post for years that they need to bring that song back. I lost my mind. I can tell you right now, spoiler alert, for down the line, I hate to tell you all this, but it's my good for this week if you didn't know already. And believe me, I'm going to mention it with a big-ass smile on my face because Sheamus is back, and I'm so happy.
All right, a couple of things. Mike Rainey, actually, he was responding to Jessica. Jessica, talking about sucks to he'll be back in shape soon. And Jessica was asking about Rhea Ripley, and Mike Rainey saying he thinks it's going to be Liv Morgan or returning soon, Alexa Bliss winning the Women's Raw Championship. And F and Mark's Hall of Famer El Jefe said it's a shameful thing.
Lobster head, a careless man who could wind up dead. Too many limes, too many limes. Oh! I'm going to stop. I got to save my voice.
One of the things that, we've talked about already, and we kind of saw it a little bit at the original Clash at the Castle. When Drew McIntyre eventually goes against CM Punk, I want him to officially, fully bring back Broken Dreams as his theme song. I think it would fit his current character much better than what his current theme song does. And it would feed into the story of he and CM Punk, where CM Punk famously, many years ago on his WWE documentary, said, "I'm a man who sets goals, and my goal is to main event WrestleMania." It looked like that's where he was heading. He was heading towards main eventing night one of WrestleMania. And Drew McIntyre future shocked him out of that dream. I want to see Broken Dreams come back as Drew McIntyre's theme song.
You know what would be the ultimate troll job is if they did fight a Clash at the Castle and CM Punk came out to Broken Dreams instead. I would die. And honestly, that's the only person in all of wrestling that could actually supersede Sheamus as my mark-out moment of the year. It's because he's the ultimate ticking time bomb. He could do just about anything.
Right.
Just like my brainless moment of the year is is always up for consideration for all 365 days, just because Tony Khan still does coke and the Young Bucks are still in professional wrestling. So I'm always guaranteed a Brainless that could be the ultimate Brainless. And let's not forget about Hulk Hogan either. The liar himself.
Let me tell you something, brother. There
I
was
watched
a kid with a certain odor in 1992 in London, brother, when I main evented SummerSlam at Wembley Stadium and brought Simon Cowell over to the United States. And I started American Idol with Simon Cowell, but they took me off and said, you know what, brother? We want to do Randy Jackson, Paul Abdul.
That's okay. It was the second most devastating thing I've ever dealt with, after the George Foreman grill falling through because I was picking up the kids from school, brother. But I mean, that would be cool with honestly with Drew McIntyre if they did bring that back. I was always a fan of that entrance song. I honestly, between him and Sheamus with their newer songs, I've always liked Drew's a little bit more because it was a little bit more fitting. I mean, yes, the one for Sheamus was fitting, but come on.
Well, quite honestly, I am not a fan of what they did with Sheamus's music. I wasn't like not a fan of what they did with Drew's music. I thought both of them were good theme songs. I just like the other ones better. That's all.
Yeah. I just think I'm a little less upset about Drew's newer one than I am about Sheamus's, just because I don't know. I always thought that the one for I don't want to get too into that, but I think it would be cool if they actually did bring back the Broken Dreams, whether it's Punk or if it's Drew McIntyre that comes out with it.
So specifically, in an interview this week, Drew was a little bit more specific about the timeline as far as his contract, and it sounds like the current deal will be done in June, which means he'll be at the show. I believe it's going to be the Germany show. So
I thought Clash of the Castle was in June now.
Maybe it is. They have so many international shows that it's running together in my brain.
Oh, I understand.
But either way, so he's saying his current deal runs through June. And he says negotiations are ongoing with, the current state of AEW. They do not have a new deal set in place for their TV rights currently. They just spent a lot of money on a lot of high-priced free agents. And I know AEW is less attractive these days than it was 2 or 3 years ago. If Drew wants to take some time off, he may. He's coming back to WWE.
Yeah.
He may take time off. I don't think he will. I think he and WWE are going to come to an agreement because he's got a awesome storyline that's already built for when CM Punk returns sometime around SummerSlam. He will be in a high-profile match with a high-profile performer, and it kind of doesn't matter who wins or loses. I honestly think that before SummerSlam happens, we may see Drew McIntyre become, the heavyweight champion. I think he may, at some point between now and then, take on Damian Priest and beat him. So I foresee Drew re-signing with the company, but as of right now, he is officially signed up into June. And right now, Becky Lynch is in a similar state. Now, one thing that was interesting with the cuts that were done in the last week and a half at WWE is that the executive president of talent relations was let go. There were a lot of people chiming in out and about, saying that part of the reason they believe that this person is no longer there is contracts would be coming up and there hasn't been any chatter. Natalia's another name. She's been with the company for like 17 years, 18 years, and they haven't even reached out to her, and she has like 2 months left on her contract. Even if you're not planning on retaining the person, there's at least a business courtesy of like, hey, we're not going to renew you, or you at least start opening a conversation with them. So that sounds like it's part of a problem that they had with the head of talent relations. That could be in part why that person is no longer employed by WWE. You know, you have important performers, many of them, contracts coming due soon. You know, you've got Seth Rollins also, his contract is coming up. Finn Balor, contract coming up. And right now, Seth Rollins is on hiatus, you know, working through an injury, like just so he could get to WrestleMania and have his freaking moment. Oh, by the way, The Rock saying the man who was the MVP of WrestleMania weekend was Seth Franklin Rollins. As much as a lot of people out there had the perspective that he was getting buried throughout the entire program with Cody and The Rock and Roman, he was in a program with Cody, The Rock, Roman, Drew McIntyre, and CM Punk simultaneously. Tell me how that's a loss in any way.
He was the catalyst. He was the reason behind Roman Reigns losing the championship, because Roman Reigns had a chance at the end of the main event of night 2 to put Cody Rhodes out and to retain the championship, but he let that 10 years of animosity, he pulled a me, Cousin Jay. He didn't let it go. And it was exactly 10 years or 11 years to the day when Seth blasted him with the chair was when he got hit. It was April 7th. 2014 when he did it. So to say that, I think is the right thing to do, because like you said, he was in the main event of night 1. He was in the program with The Rock and Roman and Cody Rhodes.
And he showed up in the main event of night 2.
And he not only did he wrestle and defend the championship at night 2 of WrestleMania, he was the first match. So he didn't even get a full 24 hours of rest in between his match from the night before and the match he was in the next day, and he was defending the title against the Scottish psychopath. And then he was in the main event, and like I said, he was the catalyst. Roman decided to go for him instead of going for Cody Rhodes, and then he, you know, the story ended. And now we have a new world champion, or a new WWE champion. Seth Rollins was very vocal to the story. He was a very focal point of the story. He was like I said, he was the catalyst for how it ended. He earned so much of my respect over WrestleMania weekend. Seth Rollins, the guy who was my least favorite member of the Shield, is now one of my favorite wrestlers in WWE. I love the dude, and he deserves his flowers because he was the MVP of WrestleMania. I don't care what anybody says. That man was the MVP. He was Kirk Gibson in the 1988 World Series, Cousin Jay, with 2 bad knees. And he went up there and he hit a walk-off home run. He might have lost twice and got blasted with a chair, but he was Kirk Gibson in the 88 World Series against the A's.
Yeah.
And he was the MVP. I'm sorry. He was the guy. He was the star. As much as that was Cody's moment over the weekend, Cody was the one that lost on Saturday. Just saying. He ate the pin.
Setting up future storylines. And one of those things.
Oh, we must be talking about WWE.
The Rock this week did say specifically WrestleMania 40 was chapter 1 for the final boss. So there are more chapters to come. You know, clearly he's got a couple of movies he's working on. The current plan is for him and Cody to be at WrestleMania 41. Whether that's main event, whether that's for a championship, we don't know. Either way, going into WrestleMania 40, I believed that we were going to see like The Rock's last match, and it was going to be against Roman. With all the things with the fans and the pivot that they did in the storyline, which was perfect. They did that like perfectly. We now will get at least one more Rock match, and I'm going to say that we get at least 2, and we may, you know, here and there get like Royal Rumble where he wrestles, and it won't be a match, but like, you know, he'll be in the Royal Rumble match or things like that, because at some point he will have his Roman Reigns match.
I'm going to tell you this much, Jay, as a betting man, if you set the over under on the amount of matches that The Rock has at 2.5, I'm betting the over. And even if you push it back, you know, even farther, like 4.5, maybe 5.5, I might still bet the over. And it's because of the fact that The Rock is part of the board of directors. Yeah. And you also got to realize they still have that contract with Saudi Arabia. And if the Prince of Saudi Arabia is like, well, you can tell me I can get The Rock. He's part of the board of directors, right? So he's got to be there, right? The Rock's wrestling in Saudi Arabia at some point. I can guarantee that. He's going to wrestle at WrestleMania 41. I can guarantee you that. And after what we've seen on SmackDown last week, with the total implosion in the new-looking bloodline,
the
Wolfpack bloodline, we're not out of the realm of possibilities of seeing The Rock wrestling at Survivor Series in War Games.
Where they can see that.
If they did it, and I'll tell you this much too, because I remember what happened the last time The Rock was at WrestleMania, or the last time he was wrestling in WWE. He looked all blown up and all that shit, and like he looked like a tick about to pop. Man, he looked good, Jay. He was the most impressive person for me at WrestleMania 40, considering I knew what to expect. I was expecting something different. I thought he was going to be gassed 3 minutes into the match. No, The Rock looked good. The Rock looked like he did the night he wrestled Steve Austin at WrestleMania 19. The Rock was The Rock that night. I have zero issues with him wrestling again. I have zero issues with John Cena wrestling again, as long as he doesn't have one of those foo-foo bullshit matches like he did last year against Austin Theory at WrestleMania 39, where it was the worst match. That match was worse than Jimmy and Jay Uso, by the way.
John Cena. Shave it off, dude.
Yeah.
Shave it off, or you have the money to get it fixed. One of those two things.
Embrace it, John Cena. Embrace it.
I did. I look like Adam Pearce.
And that was another thing I was going to bring up about how you were saying that when people get older and everything. I was like, no. I was like, Jay, you know, you're just, you know, you're the guy that's going to, you know, lift up the mattress at 47 and, you know, carry it around.
Right.
You do things at your age that I can't do at my age. So. If y'all don't believe me.
In the chat, he said he just wants to vent for a moment. Fans clamoring for Cody to finish the story, and they're already starting to get sick of his title reign.
Fickle fans. Wrestling fans are the most fickle fans in the history of fans of any sport or entertainment purpose. They are fickle. They can't keep up their minds. I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. I said, you know, he's going to finish this story, and people are going to turn on him because they want him to finish the story and then turn heel. They got too comfortable with Roman Reigns Let Cody do what he's got to do. The guy just won the title. He hasn't even been champion for 2 weeks, and you guys are ready to turn on him?
He hasn't even defended the title. He hasn't had a chance to save a plane from falling into the ocean. Instead, he probably lasered it down. Went full Homelander. But, that's neither here nor there. But, yeah, wrestling fans are fickle. Cody finished the story like, I'm bored. You know what? Give him a damn chance. You know me, Brainless One. I'm always like, hey, let's see the full story before we say yay or nay. Every once in a while for me, I'm like going, yeah, this is absolute crap.
I always think of the 2 times that I shat all over something without letting it play out, and both times it came back and bit me in the face. Most recently was when Bray Wyatt came back as Mr. Rogers, and I said, whatever the hell they're doing is freaking stupid. And then 2 weeks after I said that what they were doing with Bray Wyatt was stupid, he came out looking like a fiend, and I said, okay, all right, you guys shut me up real quick, so I'm not doing that ever again. The only other time that it's ever happened was when WWE was introducing Alberto Del Rio back in the day, and the vignettes were awful. I mean, absolutely awful. I said, this guy's going to be out of WWE in a month. And by the time he first made his way to the ring, and he had his own personal ring announcer introducing him in Spanish, he came out with the luxury cars. He had the pose and the waterfall. I was like, I'm hooked. This guy's the shit.
But I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but you already knew that. I also didn't realize he was a piece of shit either, but that's neither here nor there. But I want to see how this goes. You can't automatically turn on Cody 2 weeks after he wins the title. Don't be stupid like that. And believe me, folks, I'm going to mention wrestling fans again at some point in this podcast, because yesterday was the first time that I wanted to reach through my screen and beat the fucking shit out of somebody.
Yeah?
I was very pissed off because it was unprovoked and for no apparent reason other than the fact that I now have a whole different opinion on a group of individuals I just don't like anymore, and they are the fucking worst.
The worst.
But Mike Rainey, since we are talking about Raw, and Mike Rainey had mentioned Rhea Ripley, I say we talk about Rhea Ripley.
Mami is no longer on top. Rip.
I don't know who I feel worse for, Dom or Buddy Murphy.
Yeah.
There was a lot of speculation coming out. I want to say I know it was definitely Monday. I don't remember if it started coming out on Sunday or not. That Rhea Ripley had gotten injured last week on Raw when she got attacked by Liv Morgan. She came out wearing a sling, and it appears that she has a busted up shoulder. She's going to be out for a few months. This is not the way we envisioned Mami losing the Women's World Championship. It is unfortunate. I know she's going to come back stronger than ever. If there is a guiding light to this injury happening when it did, is it's not a serious or a significant injury where she's going to be out 9 to 12 months, and B, she's young enough that an injury like this for her to come over isn't going to really derail her career, because she could just kind of fill in and just, I'm back and I'm coming for my title. And I know she's going to do that. She's going to come back and win her title not too long after she returns, because I don't care. She's the biggest star in the women's division. And you can't tell me otherwise.
I mean, the only thing with this, they allowed Seth to more or less not defend the title for about 3 months. If she was going to be gone 3 months or less, I would say, hey, let her rehab. They allowed Brock Lesnar to not defend the title that much. They allowed Roman Reigns to not defend the title that much. So in the chat they're saying that they, sounds like about four-ish months she'll be out. So Maybe she'll be back by SummerSlam. Maybe. Probably more likely for September, October.
It could also be one of those situations that they were going to, like, what if they were planning a WWE Backlash WrestleMania that she was going to drop the title there anyway? That's the only reason I can see, like, them having her relinquish the championship. Because and it's not like this is the first time they've done it either. They did the same thing to Naomi the year WrestleMania was in Orlando, where they stripped her of the SmackDown Women's Championship because she wasn't going to be able to.
Like 3 weeks later.
Yeah, she was there not even a month later at WrestleMania. But yeah, Brock Lesnar could show up and defend the title twice a year and get away with it. Granted, I know this is comparing apples to oranges because who the fuck's going to tell Brock Lesnar to come and show up and defend the title? I'm certainly not going to do it. Always makes me think of the Mark Marrow story when he found out that Sable was cheating on him with another wrestler. And Mark Marrow was all pissed off going, I can't wait to find out who this guy is. I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. He goes, and then when I found out who it was, he goes, boy, God said something about forgiveness that day.
Yeah.
But I it's unfortunate. I don't know what they're planning on doing with the Women's World Championship next week or in a few days.
That they're going to have, I think it's going to be a fatal 4-way on Monday Night Raw. And when I was looking at the Raw roster, I mean, there are definitely a couple of names out there. You're like, oh, yeah. I mean, could they do Becky Lynch even though she just lost to Rhea? It's like, hey, she earned her way into that match. She lost a well-contested match. Can I see someone like her doing it? Possibly. Liv Morgan, who's the one who injured her. Can I see Liv doing that? Possibly. I'm going to say a name that you definitely don't want to hear is being a possibility of being in that match. Nia Jax.
Oh.
They could possibly have her win that title. But I think I want to go, I'm going to give you 2 names that are maybe a little outside of the box that I think would be really interesting ideas. Shayna Baszler.
I don't hate it.
She's been working her tail off for many years between NXT and the main roster, has had a couple of moments in the spotlight. If you believe that this is a semi-transitional period and you just want to show respect to Shayna Baszler for the time she's put in and what she's done, I'm not against giving her a few month run until Rhea comes back and Rhea is back on top.
Yeah.
My other choice that I think is further outside of the box would be Chelsea Green.
Oh.
I like as much as she is not like built as a main event star at this moment, I enjoy the heck out of her. And I say, this is an opportunity. Let's see if she can swim in the deep end.
Honest to goodness, Jay, if I had to pick right now who's winning Money in the Bank, it's Chelsea Green. I even if you tell me right now, even without them announcing when the Money in the Bank is or who's going to be a part of the match, if you give me Chelsea Green in the field, I'm taking Chelsea Green. She's winning Money in the Bank this year. I just call it a gut feeling, a hunch, whatever you want to call it. I do like those ideas. I think that Chelsea getting the title would just be absolutely fantastic. Shayna Baszler does deserve it. She has really done a lot for WWE. She got rid of Ronda Rousey, and we've seen what Ronda Rousey has now done to WWE. So, for me, I wouldn't be opposed to Liv Morgan winning the title. I have no issues with that. Alexa Bliss coming back in her hometown and winning the title after being out for over a year when she was pregnant. When they do stuff like that, that's just like, I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, you're gone for over a year and a half. Here's the title back. That was one of the reasons people had an issue with Alexa Bliss is that she always won the title. Not that I would be opposed to seeing her back. I love Alexa Bliss. She's one of my favorites, and I would love to see her back. One person I would love to see outside the box, I know that, she's technically SmackDown right now, but, we got a draft coming up in about a week from tonight, actually. Jade Cargill. Just put the title on Jade Cargill. Right now, you are in a prime spot if you're WWE that you could really tism out, coked out Khan. Put the Women's World Championship on Jade Cargill and the freaking coke-induced temper tantrum he would throw on Dynamite. He'd be showing stuff that Jade Cargill was somehow part of the all-out brawl. Just because that's what Tony Khan does. He doesn't do anything logically, so obviously. But that's what I would do. But that's just me. I like chaos. I like the fact that you have a chance to really just stick it to AEW. That's what I would do. And AEW has not done a damn thing to make me feel any differently than I do now, that I just can't stand those motherfuckers, and I actually want AEW to go under. I'll get into that in a bit. Trust me, I will. Cousin Jay, if anybody knows there is a rhyme or reason to the way I feel about certain things, I know you know that I know that you know.
Yeah?
And that's how I feel. Then there's definitely some kind of built-up animosity that I've gotten for one reason or another. But we'll get into that in a bit. I would like to see Liv Morgan just because I've enjoyed her work. I still remember when she won the Money in the Bank and she cashed in on Ronda Rousey, and the reaction from McAfee and Cole when she was cashing in and everything. I've enjoyed the fact that she has progressed as well as she has, because I remember when she first debuted in NXT in the mid-2010s and to where she is now and how she's developed.
To Bo Dallas.
Yeah, basically. And I like to see her as the champion. I don't want to see Nia Jax. I would have zero issue with Shayna Baszler. I would have absolutely zero issue with Chelsea Green. I would absolutely lose my mind if it was Jade Cargill. And anybody short of like Tegan Knox, I would say I would have no issue with winning the title. You can even put it, hell, the way Candice LeRae is going right now, you could put the Women's World Heavyweight Championship on her, and I would be thrilled with that.
Yeah. All right.
She's doing some dastardly shit that even the dastardly Christian Cage even recognizes.
Yeah. All right. So Mike Rainey in the chat said, speaking of Ronda Rousey, do we believe that the currently now redacted star Drew Gulak did what he's being accused of, or is this a case of Ronda Rousey being sour grapes against WWE?
My guess is that it's like they always say. There was the Drew Gulak side of the story, the Ronda Rousey side of the story, and then there's that middle ground where both of their stories kind of intertwined to make kind of what the truth really was. My guess is that it was a little bit more towards what Drew Gulak was saying, but they're making a bigger deal out of this because it's Ronda Rousey, and they're just like, what are we going to do? I think it's unfortunate. I laughed my ass off when I found out that the D'Angelo family was paid off by William Regal's son to whack Drew Gulak, and he's no longer an issue. I love the fact that and this is coming from somebody who's an Italian. And I had zero issue with them portraying the Italians the way they did on NXT this week. But I will say this about Ronda Rousey. She should just do a podcast with Ryback. They have a lot in common. They're both people that nobody in the wrestling industry ever wants to see get in the ring again. They're two people who just love to just shower their sour grapes about their time in WWE and letting everybody know about it. And quite frankly, I could give two shits about either one of them ever making an appearance in WWE ever. So that's my thing. I'm done with Ronda Rousey. I have no reason to want to watch her anymore. You know what they should do? They should bring her back for one match and have her get into a shoot fight with Holly Helm so Holly Helm can knock her the fuck out again. Sorry. Is she in the... That's another thing. Is she in the UFC Hall of Fame?
I think so.
Because if she's not getting in now. And she can kiss a freaking UFC return ever goodbye. She's going to be stuck working with the freaking clown show in AEW because nobody else is going to sign her.
She doesn't need the money, to be fair.
True, that's... But I could see her coming back to AEW just for the fact that it's just because it's her. Out of spite. Because she knows, unlike her unbiological brother, the Ryback, that Tony Khan will actually pay money for her to perform there.
Right. And I think I agree with how you're assessing it, where it's like, yeah, there's Drew's side of it, there's Ronda's side of it, and it's probably somewhere in between that, but like Ronda's trying to sell a book. And a lot of times when you're trying to sell something, you overdo it. If Drew Gulak was like a super perv, I think you would have heard a couple more stories come out. Like after Ronda, breached the dam, so to speak. Right? If she breached the dam and now people are no longer afraid to talk about things that Drew Gulak did, we have not heard word one from any other accusers of Drew Gulak.
It's just unfortunate.
It feels like Ronda was saying these things to sell books. That's what it feels like. It's possible, I wasn't there clearly, that Drew did something that wasn't cool. But even so, is Drew Gulak dumb enough to mess with Ronda Rousey, who, even though she's smaller than Drew, could probably beat the shit out of him in a shoot fight? And oh, by the way, her husband definitely could beat the shit out of Drew Gulak.
Yeah, just ask the dude who tried attacking the Hitman at the Hall of Fame a few years ago.
Right.
That was my favorite thing. That was one of my favorite things I've ever seen.
So I tend to believe. I think Drew Gulak's version of the story is probably closer to truth.
I do too.
All that being said, I understand why WWE is tepid about him and have now kicked him out of the faction that he was in, and it looks like he may or may not lose his job. And if the Drew Gulak side of the story is closer to true, it's a damn shame that you would let a man that talented go over an allegation that had little to no merit.
It had no reason to even get brought up in the first place. It was stupid. It's just sad because that dude was like, oh, Philadelphia is where I'm from, and they're going to do WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. I have to find a way to get on that card. Boy, you couldn't have done anything any more opposite than that, pal. Sad. Just sad. But again, I just love the fact that WWE did to him like what Goodfellas did to Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. They took him out to a back room and just shot him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a made man.
All right.
Since we are on the topic of Monday Night Raw, we did get the main event, which was the Intercontinental Championship match between Sami Zayn and Chad Gable. I'm telling you right now, if Sami Zayn's contract is ever going to expire, he can't leave. He's never going to want to leave. His WrestleMania entrance was fun. I love the fact that they had him going through the arena from the parking lot, from the front entrance, like he did 25 years ago in Montreal, which we all know what happened around that.
What happened in Montreal? Brainless one.
Something about a screw job, and I'm not talking about Kenny and Kota Ibushi and their fuck doll. I'm talking about when Bret Hart got screwed by. Wait, I'm sorry. When Bret Hart screwed Bret Hart, according to the dastardly Voldemort. But he did come in through the front door, through the crowd, loved it. If they keep doing this with Sami Zayn every single time, Sami Zayn's going to be, he's fine. His stock is going to be, he's going to be a main man. His stock is perfect where he is. And him and Gable had such a great match. I knew they were going to. But at the end, Sami Zayn did prevail. Chad Gable and him, showed their sign of respect. Sami Zayn was hugging his wife after the victory. Gable German suplexed the dude out of his wife's hands onto the floor, started beating on him, got him through the ropes, had him in the ankle lock. Shorty G'd himself. What are your thoughts on Chad Gable turning heel on Sami Zayn?
There's only so far you could do the Rocky 3 storyline. I mean, think of it. Technically, Apollo Creed never really turned on Rocky, even though they did have a fight.
That we don't know the outcome of, still to this day.
Well, if you watch Creed 1, we found out the outcome.
That is true. They did announce that in Creed 1. That's my fault.
Yes.
And it crossed my mind. I went, shit, didn't they say it in Creed 1, Brainless 1? I don't care. I don't get my Brainless this week.
You do not.
Still.
Anyway. This is not quite Big Show level of heel face turn. But all right, so you trained somebody else up to get the title from the dude who you really had issues with. And he wins the title. More or less what you're saying storyline-wise with this. I couldn't beat the other dude, but I could train the dude to beat the other dude, but I could beat the other dude. Doesn't make a ton of sense because I know, the viewing audience out there knows Sami Zayn stole Chad Gable's story. It should have been Chad at WrestleMania. Chad is just not on the level of Sami Zayn. And I love Sami Zayn. It was Chad Gable's story.
But at the end
Chad should have won. It feels premature to turn him heel. But
because the biggest issue that I see with them turning him heel, not to interrupt, my biggest issue with them turning him heel like this is now you're building this up for another match. Because you've proven to everybody that Chad Gable couldn't beat Gunther as a face. So he goes and he trains Sami Zayn to beat Gunther at WrestleMania, which he does. So that Sami Zayn, the following week after WrestleMania, gives him a shot at the Intercontinental title, which Chad Gable loses. So now you turn him heel. So clearly, this isn't going to be like one of those things where Sami Zayn is going to go fight a whole bunch of other people. No, he's going to be feuding with Chad Gable, which means at some point, Chad Gable's going to have to win the Intercontinental Championship from Sami Zayn really soon, whether it's his next match or the match after it. Otherwise, everything you've done with Chad Gable goes right out the window. Because it's like, okay, he did the thing where he's like, I swear to God on my kids, I'm going to beat the Intercontinental Champion and I'm going to beat Gunther for the title. Doesn't do it. And he trains Sami Zayn and does all that stuff with him. Sammy goes and wins it. Gets a shot at the title. Can't win it that way. Can't win it against the face. So you got to turn him heel. He's got to win the title now. Otherwise, you guys are completely just might as well just get rid of him. Because you've done everything in your power to absolutely destroy this man. And it's not even really your fault. And I don't blame Triple H because we're in a new era of WWE. That's why with them turning him heel, I'm not as upset because all the face and heel turns that happened before during the dastardly era of WWE don't count. Unless it's like a monumental one or if it's the Big Show because he turned face and heel every week. But this is a poor guy that overcame Shorty G, which was in my book just as bad as Max Dupree, which is not nearly as...
All right. Would you put it on the same level as Husky Harris?
Oh, yes, because I said it when he debuted as Husky Harris, I said, you know what? If they give this guy the right gimmick, he's going to take off and be something special. Because I always appreciated Husky Harris for his size and the fact that he could move. And now I see Braun Breaker, and it's like, how does a human being move that fast in the ring? But I would say it's definitely better than Michael McGillicuddy or Eli Cottonwood.
Eli Cottonwood's promo on Mustache. One of the greatest moments in NXT history. Eli Cottonwood. Eli Cottonwood, who showed up a couple times in the Bray Wyatt documentary. I was like, hey, Eli Cottonwood. Whoever was coming up with the names around that time in WWE/NXT, dude, your drugs were good.
The one in the mid-90s is definitely better. Vince, whatever drugs you were on in the mid-90s to come up with Repo Man and the Red Rooster and
Dr. Isaac Yankum, DDS.
Doink the Clown, and my personal favorite, a guy who's nowhere near my Rushmore, Duke the Dumpster Drosy. The Garbage Man's out.
The GOAT.
The last thing ever said about Duke Drosy, Bobby Heenan saying the Garbage Man has been eliminated from the Gimmick Battle Royal, thus breaking the heart of a young Brainless one who was the only person on planet Earth stupid enough to pick the Garbage Man to win the Gimmick Battle Royal. At least that's what my friend said that night.
And then what was it, a year and a half ago, he made his in-ring return.
If that's what you want to call it.
The crowd went mild, and he moved it like a mule.
Oh, Duke Drosy. Thanks.
I'm glad he got his shit cleaned up. It doesn't seem like he's on heroin anymore. I'm just like the dude that was on not this week's Dark Side of the Ring, the week before. Chris.
I just watched
Chris Cole. Chris Cole.
That was some shit. It
was not Herb Abrams level, but it was
no. That was I'll tell you right now. I'm going to give the people from Dark Side of the Ring a lot of credit. They throw out these episodes that I think are going to be absolute shit, and they turn out to be the best episodes of the season. Although it is going to be hard to beat the Terry Gordy episode. I enjoyed the hell out of that. I enjoyed the one about Buffalo.
Forward to. I have not seen it yet. I know it was aired on Tuesday.
Gentleman Chris Adams.
Yes. The man who trained Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What?
Started the super kick, was part of the dynamic duo when the Von Erich boys were not feuding with the Freebirds. They were feuding with the dynamic duo Gino Hernandez and Gentleman Chris
Adams. Yep.
I'm looking forward to seeing that episode. I fondly remember Chris Adams when I was growing up. He was the world-class championship wrestling heavyweight champion at one point. He was in WCW. Really a solid performer. And just another one of these dudes that died way too soon. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the folks from Dark Side of the Ring had put together and learning a little bit more about Gentleman Chris Adams, the man who invented the super kick, made it a great move that eventually got ruined by
douchebags with exploding sneakers. Go ahead and say it, Jay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, say it. Go
Nicholas
ahead.
and Matthew.
Bunch of
And oh,
fucking
by the way,
assholes.
I mean, the erosion of the super kick started before Nicholas and Matthew, but between Nicholas and Matthew, quite honestly, I now want to see forbidden door match between the Young Bucks and the Usos. And I want to see FanDuel put in an over-under of how many super kicks we will see.
I'd bet them all. Whatever the over is, it's not high enough.
Neither
will I be if that match.
That's because if I would have bet the over during WrestleMania, I would have gotten it. They super kicked each other 5.3 million times. Young Bucks versus the Usos, bro, no doubt. 10 million super kicks. They would have exploding sneakers. They would have probably a hovercraft that would launch them into the air to do a special super kick. They would have the ring explode Eddie Kingston style.
Poor Eddie.
But I am looking forward to seeing that, even though I know it's going to be a sad story. The dude died in, it was either his late to mid 40s or early 50s. And he left behind a daughter, and you know, that's some tough shit. It really is. And hearing the stories and like, it's interesting hearing the good parts and then, you know, the shit that went on, and you're like, oh, well, damn. But again, he trained Stone Cold Steve Austin and just was, I watched him almost every day when I came home at 3 o'clock on ESPN daily.
World-class championship wrestling.
Yeah. Gentleman Chris Adams.
That's how I found out what cocaine was, because that was my first experience with Michael PSAs. Because before that, I only knew him as Doc Hendricks.
Yeah?
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned the Buckaroos, because this now segues into what I've been holding off talking about for a minute.
Yeah?
Cousin Jay, Dave Meltzer has lost his fucking mind. It really does seem like this man has been severely butthurt, more so than Tony Khan or the Buckaroos were after CM Punk made that appearance on Ariel Helwani's podcast. Ever since Punk went on there and said, if your mindset is because you're worried about what a doof and his star ratings do when the building is a quarter filled, we're not in the same business. The fact that he basically called out Meltzer for being just some schmuck, that he is not even anything worth a shit in this thing, that he's only doing it just so he can impress the people that he shouldn't really be impressing. It was very clear that was the case. If you want to put up the Tism thing, Cousin Jay, you can, because it's going to be it's going to be a allergy filled rant, but I am going to gut this out because I have been holding on to this for a minute. It's bad enough that you said what you said after the interview. It's bad enough that you gave the Usos 3.25 stars. I mean, 3/4 of a star. 3/4 of a star. It's not even a star. You're telling me that match was better than Cena and Austin Theory? You're telling me that's better than any of the fucking matches that Daniel Garcia is dancing and gyrating his shit in some dude's face? You're trying to tell me that match was 100 times worse than anything that Luchasaurus has ever done? Come on, man. This is ridiculous. You didn't even have the decency. One of the greatest matches of all time wasn't even 5 stars. How you couldn't give Savage and Steamboat. I've been talking about this for a long time. How Savage and Steamboat should have been a 5-star match because it was well deserving of a 5-star match. You never gave Kurt Angle, the wrestling bout machine, a 5-star match. Is an absolute travesty. Him and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, I think 20 or 22, I think it
21.
was. 21. I was right in the middle. It was right around it, I should say. And that was one of the greatest. That was one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. Top 5 for me.
Somehow, him and AJ Styles never had a 5-star match.
Kurt Angle never had a 5-star match. I find that hard to believe. Fine.
Him and Samoa Joe didn't have a 5-star match either.
That's yeah. I don't believe that.
He's
fine.
Fat.
Fine. So that was one gripe that I had with the 3/4 of a star that you gave to the Usos at WrestleMania. Okay. Another thing I had a problem with was the fact that you came out this week and said Trick Williams isn't a star. The only reason that he is any good in the ring is because it's the Ric Flair effect, because he's in the ring with somebody who's going to make him look like $1 million. Then they must have a whole bunch of people down in NXT that make this guy look like $1 million. Because every time I've seen him in the ring, I've been impressed. He's got the look. He's got the physique. He's got the ability to get a reaction from the, come on, whoop that trick. Whoop that trick. Are you kidding me? This guy's the total package. I actually like him a little bit more than I like Carmelo Hayes, and I love Carmelo Hayes. To say that this guy is not going to be a star, are you fucking really? What is wrong with you, Meltzer? There was another thing he said this week, and I can't even think of it. That really, I was like, why are you doing this? What was it? I got to think of it now. He said one other thing this week that it was really bothersome because it was, besides the rating, the fact that he said what he said about Trick Williams was really, really stupid. He got the thing about where he was the one that got me thinking that Austin Theory and Grayson Waller are going to be taken off at WrestleMania, and they ended up winning the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Oh, now that I remember, Monday Night Raw this week, that first hour, they were pandering to me. Not to say that I wanted to see Rhea Ripley, relinquish the title. No, that's far from what I wanted to see. I've enjoyed her reign. She's one of my favorites in the women's division. They gave me the Miz and R-Truth getting new World Tag Team Championships. Beautiful titles. That whole exchange, Jay, I'm telling you right now, I laughed so hard. I'm talking belly laughing. I was laughing so hard because of R-Truth. And then the fact that Meltzer came out and said, yeah, the whole thing with R-Truth was kind of tiresome and boring, and it just didn't lead to anything. It was just there just to break Triple H. There was people in the crowd that were calling out Meltzer saying, I was laughing the entire time. There was people watching it at home saying they laughed the whole time. I couldn't wait until I got into this podcast this week so I could mention the fact that Dave Meltzer's a fucking dumbass. Stop going to him. He is Vince Russo. He is the Ryback. He should be on a list of people you shouldn't ask about. I don't care. Now, whenever I see his name attached to an article, I back up just as quickly as when I see Vince Russo's name on an article. I don't care about Dave Meltzer and his stupid fucking ratings. You know what? Instead of 5 stars, maybe I'll just start doing a 1 through 5 brains rating, huh? Maybe that'll improve. That'll be much better. Because I will guarantee you this. I will guarantee you this. People like Killian Dane and Lars Sullivan and Dino Man and Jungle Jerk Off, none of those fucking people would have a 5-star match. The Young Bucks would never have a 5-star match. Never. Kurt Angle would have a plethora. If I'm going to quote El Guapo from the Three Amigos, I would give Kurt Angle a plethora of 5-star matches because he's had a plethora of them. But he doesn't get the recognition because Dave Meltzer's too busy jerking off to watching the Bucks and Kenny wrestle. How is it that Kurt Angle has 0 5-star matches and Will Ospreay, who's like 30, 31 years old, has had more 5-star matches than anybody else? Really? And even he said it. Will Ospreay even said it. He goes, how is it that Kurt Angle has none? He goes, how? He's like, I'm not a better wrestler than Kurt Angle. This is from Will Ospreay. Go ahead. Somebody out there, anybody, AEW fans, especially AEW fans, people who support Meltzer, Jay, you've been watching this business for a very long time, just like I have. Can you name me a whole bunch of people who are better in the ring all around than Kurt Angle?
I mean, it's maybe Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
I'd say that, and I would put AJ Styles at his level. And that's it.
And oh, by the way, he and AJ tore the house down several times.
Oh, yeah.
When they were in TNA. The fact that they never got a 5-star match. Again, as much as you're saying, fuck Meltzer and his stupid rating system, how do he and AJ Styles together not have a 5-star match? Makes zero sense. How does he and Shawn Michaels not have a 5-star match?
And we know
Meltzer did not give Undertaker and AJ and Shawn Michaels a 5-star match.
He gave a parking lot brawl between Pride and Powerful and the Best Friends. It was a
By the way, I did love that match. I love that.
It was a great match. Didn't deserve 5 stars. How is it that Chuck Taylor has more 5-star matches than Kurt Angle? The Dino Man, Lars Sullivan, Killian Dane, John Cena, for crying out loud. I mean, we can't really see it, but it just, I just don't get it. It's to a point now where it's very blatantly obvious that Tony Khan has Dave Meltzer in his back pocket, just like he has Fightful, because the feeling I have about Dave Meltzer, believe me, is just as deep and thick as it is about Sean Sapp, that piece of shit weasel fuck from Kentucky who works for Fightful, you frickin' Napoleon complex having motherfucker. I would slap the fucking cousin spit out of your mouth and you know it. Yeah, can't talk about me like that. I'm Sean Ross Sapp. Nah. Fucking bitch. God, I hate him too. Jeez. I swear, they really, if there was ever a chance, like if there was what is that? What is it? The Purge or whatever that movie is where people can break the law for 12 hours. Yeah. Oh yeah. Ross Sapp and all of them are gonna get these hands. Just like Ellsworth did when he fought Strowman in that match. Anybody with 2 hands is gonna get both of mine. And Meltzer would get his ass kicked.
Somebody who's going to get both your hands and probably put people on a more disavowed list.
Oh, here we go.
The Jungle Jerk-Off's return to AEW is imminent.
Jay, he's going to cost FTR the tag team titles and the Young Bucks are going to win. Let's be serious. I saw that when they did that stupid thing last week where they got their highest rated segment that didn't include Sheldon Cooper fans on Dynamite, I knew that's exactly where they were going. I knew before they even did the stupid video package that that's where they were going to go. I said they're going to use this thing to get Jungle Jerk Off back. And the best part about it is when they're doing this Revolution or Evolution or whatever, whatever the name of the
Dynasty.
Oh God, there's too many freaking pay-per-views now in AEW. I don't care. You can call it freaking dumb fuckery. I don't give a shit. It's AEW.
Dumpster Drosy.
He's going to cost FTR the tag team titles, giving them to the Bucks. And the best part about it is the second he appears or shows his face, they're going to chant CM Punk. And it's going to blow up in their face. And every time he comes out, they're going to chant CM Punk. And people like Triple H and Stephanie, who have been in the business long enough, who are quick-witted, who can handle situations like that. And a lot of these guys who are in the wrestling industry, these longtime veterans, because this is going on for a long time. Let's not think that these CM Punk chants have only been going on for like a month or two after he left in 2013. They were going on for years. And it wasn't just Chicago. This kid, them doing what they did last week is going to blow up so bad in their face. The fact that Tony was touting, yeah, we accomplished what we wanted to. That 880,000 views is exactly what we needed from people.
And like, oh yes, we never mentioned anybody's name, and it fed perfectly into this storyline. It's like, dude, you are the only person on planet Earth who believes that.
You ready for me to wow you now?
Cocaine is quite a drug.
You ready for this one? I bet you never thought these words were going to come out of my mouth. Kenny Omega did did a stream where he was playing Street Fighter 47 or whatever version it was. And during this stream that he was with somebody, he was talking about the all-out brawl. And he said, I went in there. Now, granted, I know that they're trying to build this up as a story because Kenny Omega is going to return as a face, and the douchebag duo is going to be the douchebag duo when he returns, and they're going to feud and all that stuff. Great. Can't wait. Throw up all over the place. The way that he was making it seem like was that he wasn't the one that was instigating this thing. He knew that heading into the locker room with Cousin Chris and CM Punk, that there was going to be some bad shit that was going to go on. And it was because of the fact that the Dingleberries thought that they could take CM Punk in a fight just because CM Punk was 0-2 in UFC, not realizing that CM Punk is going to light these two up. He also said his main two goals in that situation were, I was there to diffuse the situation from it getting out of hand. And my number one concern was to get the dog out of the room, Larry, because I know how dogs are, because I have a dog too. So I figured the best thing for the dog was to be out of that situation. I'm going to say it. I never thought these words would ever escape my lips, but I'm going to say it.
It's being recorded.
This is just like Leslie Knope trying to say a positive thing about Eagleton. Oh, she had to say she was sorry. I don't hate Kenny Omega. The fact
That's very big of you.
The fact that, listen, you know how it is with me with dogs. You know that's my ultimate. That's my kryptonite is dogs. My dog is in the living room right now pouting because she's not in the F and Marks Hall of Fame, even though she's only sat in and farted on me a couple of episodes. She never dog splashed the cat was the important thing.
Yes.
But I have adored Jesus Christ. I have adored dogs for a very long time. I've had dogs pretty much my entire life. Dogs are like family. Believe me when I tell you. I agree with him on that. Number two, he was trying to go in there. Whether he was actually trying to go in and defuse the situation, I don't know. I will say this, during that stream, a lot of things that he said matched up pretty perfectly to what CM Punk said. And those rumors that we heard about how Kenny Omega and CM Punk were trying to reach out to kind of mend fences, Kenny confirmed that. So I'm going to tell you this much. I'm not saying I'm a fan of his work in the ring. I'm not going to say that he is a professional wrestler, because one thing he did say was, I didn't really want to talk about what happened backstage because I don't really want to pull back the curtain on the business. He had me until that comment. And I said, well, if that was the case, Kenny Omega, you never would have gotten into a wrestling ring with a 9-year-old Chinese girl or a blow-up doll. Because whether it was a fight between you and your coworkers and all that stuff backstage, and you don't want to pull the curtain back, that's no different than you pulling the curtain back, fighting an inanimate object or a 9-year-old child. So on my hate-dometer, Kenny is no longer, he's not in Tom Brady, like, complete 180, but I don't hate Kenny Omega. I don't want to see anything bad happen to him. And I hope that whatever's wrong with his diverticulitis, I hope it gets fixed, because I don't want to see anything bad happen to Kenny Omega. It's taken me 300.
This is the most growth I've ever seen in an episode of this podcast.
356 episodes it took me to finally admit that I don't hate Kenny Omega anymore. And this is just with an epiphany I had just listening to Cornette, listening to Omega. But he was right. I'm sorry. Hell might have froze over, because Kenny Omega is not hated by a whole bunch of people who hated him before. I still hate the Young Bucks with every fiber of my being. And if the freaking, if something bad happened to them, I wouldn't feel bad or shed a tear. But I will say this, I don't want to see anything bad happen to Kenny Omega. Protect that man. If he's a dog lover as much as I am, protect that man at all costs.
Okay.
Considering the fact that he got Larry out of there, out of the situation, And Kenny, I apologize on behalf of the Guy family. I apologize for Cousin Chris biting you.
Yes. Like a dog.
But that is some actual growth. And it's funny too, Cousin Jay, because it kind of fits in with what I was actually going to do for my top 10 this week. Because it did get me thinking about the fact that Kenny Omega has done a complete 180. So I decided for this week, it got me thinking of other wrestlers that I've done a complete 180 on, one way or another. Okay. So for this week's top 10 list, I have the top 10 wrestlers I've done the biggest 180 on ever.
Again.
And I bet you any money you're going to guess who number one is. I mean, you should know right off the top who it is going to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 10, Dominic Mysterio. Yeah. I hated Dom. I thought he was just like a Make-A-Wish because his dad was, Rey Mysterio, one of the greatest, if not the greatest luchadors of all time. His character work has gotten so much better. I enjoy Dom. I'm a fan of Dominic Mysterio. So Dominic Mysterio is number 10. Number 9, you're going to get a kick out of this one. Bart Gunn. When the Smoking... You're not going to believe me when I tell you this, and I actually hate the fact that I'm going to admit this. When the Smoking Guns first debuted, and they were trying to make some traction in the tag team division, I said, this is going to be the situation where the blonde tag team partner gets taken out by the brown-haired tag team partner, and Bart Gunn will be the biggest star of the two. Boy, was I wrong. And after the Smoking Guns and he got knocked out by Butterbean, I couldn't give two shits about Bart Gunn ever again. So I did that.
Smoking Guns in Bristol Central High School gym.
I saw those Smoking Guns fight Yokozuna and Owen Hart for the tag team titles, where an established tag team lost to a makeshift tag team the night of WrestleMania. Granted, it was a GOAT and arguably the greatest big man of all time, but still, and an unknown opponent.
Right.
But speaking of tag teams, number 8, this guy was well known for his tag teams, and believe me, there's not a human being in the history of video games that took more chair shots to the head from me than number 8 on my list, and that's Matt Hardy. I could not stand Matt Hardy for the longest time. Hated him. If you go back to the early days of my truly first Twitter profile and looked at my tweets and some of the tweets that I kind of quote tweeted that he wrote, that I technically wrote it, and really, really messed up stuff. Then he gave, and the thought of it, and that song didn't help either. I hated that song. I've appreciated it now, but
I can slam a tornado.
Getting introduced to the broken universe has made me do a complete 180 to the point now where I want to see Matt Hardy return more than I want to see Jeff. And keep that in mind because I've never been a fan of Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
Number 7, AEW as a whole. I actually liked AEW when it first came out. It was an alternative. Then they became more like New Japan Pro style, and they let freaking the Young Bucks run wild with that company. So I can't watch it anymore. There's no direction. There's no strong women's division, nothing. Number 6, Shawn Michaels. Once upon a time, very long time ago, I never liked Shawn Michaels. Never saw anything in him. All I saw was like, hey, he's just a high-flying guy. And then one day, him and Marty Jannetty showed up to the barber shop, and Marty Jannetty was so distraught about Shawn Michaels super kicking him that he dove through the pane glass window of the barber shop, thusly the day I loved Shawn Michaels forever. There was my big 180 when he threw Marty Jannetty through the pane glass window. Number 5, if I could...
I knew he was going to do that.
Heenan would be number 1 on wrestling personalities, all-time managers, favorite wrestling people ever. That's Bobby Heenan to me. Number 5, Lex Luger. I'll admit it, was never a fan of Lex Luger as a kid. Never got the hype behind him. I thought it was cool when he did the thing where he body slammed Yokozuna on the USS Intrepid on the 4th of July wearing the American flag pants that Dietrich Bader once made popular in the great movie Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes.
Seeing Lex Luger on Twitter, seeing him in person, and just getting to know him just from seeing what I've seen online and everything, boy, he's a great human being. And I love Lex Luger, and he should be, and I've been saying this for 2 years now, he should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. And if you had asked me that 10 years ago, I would have said no. So Lex Luger is number 5. Number 4, Orange Cassidy. Cousin Jay, when I first started watching AEW, what was my first opinion of Orange Cassidy?
Who the hell is this dude?
This guy's for real.
Sunglasses.
Hands in his pockets, and kicks that look like they wouldn't hurt a toddler.
Did he wrestle? Oh. That is one thing AEW fans get right.
Oh, yeah.
When they loudly cheer for the kicks of doom and the chops from Orange Cassidy.
All I'm going to say is he had one match against Pac, proved to me that he could be an actual wrestler, and now here we are in 2024. And when he lost the international, I think it was the international championship, it's, their intercontinental European whatever title, I was devastated. That's my dude. The only person in AEW I like more than Orange Cassidy is Danhausen. And there's not too many people in the wrestling industry altogether that I like more than Danhausen. But Orange Cassidy was somebody that I've done a complete 180 on. He's an absolute treasure and one of my favorite things in AEW.
All right.
Number 3, because the wife had asked me if there was any that I did a complete 180 the opposite way, where I turned against that person after really liking them. Boy, Cousin Jay, who was the first person you could think of that I would turn a 180 on in a negative light after really, really enjoying them as a superstar?
I mean, there's a lot of them.
If you could, don't even think hard. Think about it, Cousin Jay. Who was somebody that I was a really, really big fan of, was happy when they won a certain championship when they won it, and after they won a certain championship, I may or may not have wrote a certain little tweet that they got super offended over when it was at best a chuckle or a light giggle, and they blocked me.
Sometimes people love their cupcakes a little bit too much.
This isn't like I said, he has the look on his face like Cassius Ohno stole his cupcake.
I mean, Cassius Ohno had that look that he had from All In.
Yeah.
Where clearly it had nothing to do with the little dilemma that went on. I did some investigative reporting and found out that actually catering actually was cleared out. And that's why he put his hands over his face. He was like, bro, what am I going to do?
I thought he was putting his hands over his face because he was trying to hide the cheeseburger he was eating.
No, catering was empty. Samoa Joe and Dino Man cleared it out.
That's impossible, Jay. We both know that Samoa Joe was eating Samoan cookies. But yeah, Kevin Owens.
Yeah, Captain Cupcake is deserving 100% of the ire you're giving. I'm surprised that he's not, even a couple notches higher. But yes,
number
Captain
3,
Cupcake, and I still have a great respect for what he does in the ring, how he performs on the microphone, but it's like, dude, your skin is as thick as a peach's skin.
It's single-ply toilet tissue at an all-you-can-eat Mexican buffet. I'm sorry, and I was like, yeah. I was like, I marked out when Kevin Owens won the title because Kevin Owens looked like me. He had a beard like me, the hairstyle like me, the build like me. He dressed like hell. He dresses like me, for crying out loud. Kevin Owens is the brainless one. So the fact that he pissed off the Brainless one is bad. But that's fine. I digress.
Fine.
It's fine. I've held almost a nearly 8-year grudge on a guy because he blocked me over a cupcake comment. But the rest of this list is no longer about holding grudges because number 2 is somebody I never thought would be number 2 on this list. And that is JEFFJARRETT. Jeff Jarrett. Because if anything, I will say that massacre match that they had, the death match, Texas Chainsaw death match, he actually made it entertaining as best as he could. I enjoyed him on the Tales of the Territory. Jeff Jarrett's a very smart guy. I hated the fact that it was Vince McMahon's version of JEFFJARRETT, Jeff Jarrett, with the shine and the little sparkle in his tooth, and he looked like a douchebag. And the fact that he has proven to me that he has at least made $30 in the industry, which is more money than Jungle Jerk has ever made in the industry. So Jeff Jarrett is number 2. That's 2 through 10, Cousin Jay. Would you care to take a guess who you think the number 1 person, the Brainless one, has done the biggest 180 on in wrestling?
Now, if we're talking like, I mean, I have to go to like Bray Wyatt. The fact that like when he came back is, hi kids, and you hated him beyond belief. What the F is this? Blah 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 blah. I'm like, wait till it plays out. Wait till it plays out. No. This is stupid. I don't get it. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then 2 weeks later,
I loved it. To be fair, I have never, in all of my years, that the late great Bray Wyatt / Husky Harris, Wyndham Rotunda, was in WWE. I never hated him for a second. I hated Vince McMahon for giving him what I thought was the stupid gimmick at the time, but I didn't hate him. There is no way, shape, or form in hell that I would ever hate Bray Wyatt. I just didn't like what they were doing at the time. Oh, Cousin Jay. It's a name that is definitely going to rock the effing Marks universe just as much as me saying I don't hate Kenny Omega. The number 1 person I've done the biggest 180 on.
Wait.
It used to be the trigger point many years ago on the podcast. Yes. Sean Waltman, X-Pac, I have done the biggest 180 on. I'm talking Tom Brady-esque 180 on because you know how much I hated Tom Brady.
Yes.
And I absolutely love Tom Brady now. Thank you for winning that Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, Brady, and getting off the boat, shit face, somebody throwing the Super Bowl trophy at you. And just the fact that he's a funny dude. Got to give him credit. He's no longer a Patriot. I don't hate him anymore. I mean, I don't really hate the Patriots anymore either, but.
I mean, That's the Cowboys. That's the Jets. That's the Eagles.
It's Cowboys, Eagles, Jets. And then, San Francisco. I don't hate the Patriots. I don't like them. I don't really like Robert Kraft because of what he did to Hartford right after what Peter Carmonas did to Hartford. Ugh.
Yeah.
But that's all right. We still have yard goats in Hartford.
We do. We do have the back-to-back national champions.
We have the greatest
basketball.
And if I can Yankee fan myself for this one, 6-time national champions in the last 25 years. And don't get me started on the women's team.
Yeah.
But yeah, X-Pac, couldn't stand him. The epitome of what X-Pac heat was how I felt about him for a very, very, very long time. I've appreciated him just talking about wrestling. He's a smart dude. Gotta forgive him for one night in China and just being a polarizing prick.
Mm.
At the end of the day, not so many people can say that they were a part of one of the 2 greatest factions in wrestling history, and he was a part of both of them.
Yeah.
He's still not going in our Hall of Fame. Forget that. We have many more deserving people for our Hall of Fame. That's why people like R-Truth get in, and King Kong Bundy, and Effort Mark's Hall of Famer Sean O, and Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah. And next week, I will tell you all right now, spoiler alert, my top 10 list next week is going to be the top 10 things I want to see happen in the WWE draft. And right. I love the fact that they did announce this. I mentioned it. They did announce that for this upcoming draft, there's going to be a lot more emphasis on NXT. Because you know how they did in years past where it was Raw and SmackDown would get a lot of the NXT people. There's talks that there's going to be people from Raw and SmackDown that are going to get drafted to NXT, and they're not going to use it as a developmental brand. They're going to build it back up to be the third brand of WWE again.
Why not? Means, I mean, they got the CW contract that's starting up, September, October.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I got some crazy things.
Well, that'll be coming next week. So make sure you tune in to the F and Marks podcast. Make sure you give a like to the page. Make sure you set up notifications. It's crazy when the little dog is the one that's hyper aggressive.
I'm used to it, or I was used to it.
Yeah.
Sheba. How you get? You know what it is? Sheba heard that there was dogs going into the Hall of Fame, and she wanted to make sure that she was going to get some love for the possibility of entering the F and Marks Hall of Fame.
This is not getting into the Hall of Fame.
No.
Getting into the Hall of Fame is doing a 5-star dog splash unexpectedly onto the cat.
The most perfect time thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I will never, for the life of me, I'll never forget that. Such good shit.
Yeah.
We did mention earlier about the new look, the Wolfpack Bloodline, as we got Tama Tonga, also known as the son of Haku.
Yep.
Was in there beating up Jimmy. I love the fact that Solo was like, we don't tolerate losing. And it's like, Solo, you're like 1-33 in your last 34 matches. You haven't beaten any.
Oh, by the way, the tribal chief lost.
And they beat the snot. I mean, they beat the snot out of Jimmy. And now we're getting a new bloodline with Tama Tonga. It's only going to be a matter of time before Heyman, kind of separates himself from that. I'm kind of hoping Heyman just gets himself completely out of the whole bloodline thing and aligns himself with Braun Breaker, just because nobody's going to emphasize the Braun Breaker better than Paul Heyman could. He's the mouthpiece. Not that Breaker needs it, because Breaker, that's a 5-tool star if I've ever seen it. That's your pillar. That's your 20-year freaking golden ticket, Triple H. One of the best parts about the NXT 2.0 acid trip logoed version of NXT was the fact that we got Braun Breaker, the future of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting. I'm curious to see how long it takes before Jacob Fatu replaces and gets in there. That's why I said that there's a possibility that they could do like a Bloodline versus Bloodline type of war games.
Sure.
And even if you did it like where you had 4 heels and 4 faces, and it's The Rock and Tama Tonga and Solo and Jacob Fatu, and it's like you got the Usos and Roman, and it's like you could always bring in Sami Zayn.
Well, what the heck you call it? What was Haku's other son that used to be on the back of the bike with what was it? Sin Cara Negro?
Oh, he was Hunico, and it was whoever he was with Hunico, who ended up being Sin Cara.
Right.
They could bring back Manu.
And Sim Snuka.
Yeah, Jesus Louise. The guy who dropped The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
25, yeah.
Oh, I mean, technically they could bring in Tamina Snuka.
Right.
Or they could just do it. No, that's fine. Just bring back Rikishi. There's your 4th.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a lot of high hopes. A lot of people were wondering how this was going to go and unfold because Roman's going to take some time off. Looks like he's going into Hollywood to do a movie. There was clips of that. I'm glad that Tama Tonga is actually in WWE. Damn allergies, man. I hate as much as I love spring. I hate allergies, people. But I think this is a good spot for him. It's better than him starting out in NXT and having him associate with the Good Brothers. And it adds an extra element. I'm curious to see how they handle Solo being the new tribal chief now that Roman Reigns is out.
Yeah, and Roman is now, as you said, shooting a movie. It's supposed to be a heist comedy. And I mean, it's not a bunch of jabronis that he's, in this movie with. Like, it's high-profile people. You got Keanu Reeves. You got Seth Rogen, you got Sandra Oh, you got Kiki Palmer, you got a lot of people that it's like yes, I've heard of that person before. It's not like he's doing one of these B movies or C movies or direct-to-video movies that are just trash.
Like everything the Miz ever
did.
There's
actually money behind this thing, and he's in there with a lot of star power.
Hey, power to him.
Yeah, so good on him for that. And they are saying that he is still, even though he's on hiatus from the company, he is still fully integrated into this storyline and is putting in his kind of 2 cents about where it should go.
Right.
And with what we've gotten in the last 3.5, 4 years from him, I bet it's going to be good.
Yeah, I agree. Let him have his fun.
Yeah,
and like I said, I just can't wait for it because as great as his run was as a heel for the last 3+ years, now that he's won over, because you've seen it, the fans are upset that Roman lost. Because it's not just about the fact that Cody won; it was the fact that people are pissed that Roman lost. And this is what WWE's been waiting for him to have sympathy from the fans. His return, and he's going to be a face, and upon his return, by God, if I could quote JR, it's going to be epic. Because that music, and even if it's not like his tribal chief music, even if it's the Durner, people are going to lose their shit.
Right.
So, I'm excited for it. Good on him, and this sounds like a great project. I'm happy that Roman's getting a chance to do something in Hollywood instead of just straight up in the WWE.
And on SmackDown, the QR code showed briefly, and it sounds like Uncle Howdy made a brief appearance. I think everybody and their mother knows that this is showcasing a returning Uncle Howdy.
In the new Wyatt 6.
And clearly the fact that Eric Redbeard is no longer able to appear at independent shows, clearly he signed a new deal. I've heard that he has a NIL contract with Fruit of the Loom. And he is going to be repping them every time he has a wedgie.
And every stairs match he's in from now on. That would make a lot of sense, though, because Redbeard returning, Braun Strowman said he's ready for a return. People are going to be Alexa Bliss. Matt Hardy's been teasing the videos. He's got ties to Bray Wyatt. They give me broken Matt Hardy and Triple H's WWE, and I'm going to be on board. I don't care that he is a shell of himself inside the ring. That man is entertaining. Right. That man is one of the reasons why pot exists.
Yeah.
I ask Cousin Jay, how much did I love broken Matt Hardy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you were talking your 180 list, that completely was a person that you did a 180 on because you were like, I hate that guy. I will never like that guy. And then
he gave me the broken universe.
Did these cinematic matches that were just, You're like, what in the hell acid trip has this man been on?
They were great.
Was he on a vision quest with Peter Griffin?
I enjoyed
peyote.
I enjoyed the hell out of that on the Hardy compound when they did that, because it wasn't even just the tag team turmoil where all the tag teams just showed up randomly. We also got Bobby Lashley and Eddie Edwards just beating the shit out of each other to a match that there's no finish to.
Yes.
And then all the random tag teams that were showing up in that I enjoyed that. Matt Hardy is a very, very creative individual, and I would 100% want to see broken Matt Hardy back in WWE.
Well, and during one of those, I mean, I know one of your favorite touches was when Rebby Sky was playing the piano.
Mm-hmm.
With I believe, Max.
Bray Wyatt.
I think Max was.
That was the time. That was when Bray Wyatt was showing up to the Hardy compound for the first time, and she was playing his old entrance song on the piano. It was beautiful shit. Such good shit.
Pal.
And his father-in-law, the lawnmower guy.
Right. So, one thing that did come out in the last week, we were all hoping for the best, and we did not get the best, but it sounds like Big E is okay with that. 2 years after his injury, his neck injury in the ring, Big E said his 2-year scans came back and, it has not improved. Technically, he could go in the ring, but he said, I want to be able to walk. I don't have pain. I can walk. I don't have pain. Life is good. I'm okay with what's gone on. And more or less said, I'm done. While also kind of almost at the same time announcing that he and Mia Yim's sister are a thing.
One of the greatest photo shoots I've ever seen in my life. And I love his little paraphrase on it. My neck may be broken, but my heart is not. Yeah. And then the glorious pictures. I just absolutely treasure that man. I really do.
Still, one of my favorite gifts is Big E and
eating the popcorn, or him pulling the pancakes out of his onesie and feeding it to wrestlers.
Yes.
New Day for, and that's another one. That was, if there was a faction or a tag team that I did a complete 180 on, it was the New Day. Because when they first came in WWE, I was like, this is stupid. And then they added the unicorns and the flashy attires and
the bootios.
Oklahoma City, don't you dare be sour. Clap for your world famous World Tag Team Champions and feel the power. I mean, that they took it off right there. It was so much fun. I love the New Day. Absolutely love them. Fantastic. And again, I enjoyed the photo shoot. It was great. And I'm happy for, I really am. I'm happy for him. It could be so much worse. I know it sucks that your dream job of being a professional wrestler has to come to an end prematurely at a young age due to a negligent injury from one of your coworkers, but it could have been so much worse. You could have ended up as Darren Drozdoff.
He's had a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, he did.
Heavyweight champion. I don't even know how many times he was tag team champion. I'm guessing probably 7 or 8.
Former U.S. champion. He's a Grand Slam champion, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if he won Intercontinental. But
he did help. He won. That's the one. I wasn't sure if he won the U.S. I know he won the Intercontinental.
But I mean, I think he actually won NXT title too.
He did.
So he's a wrestling Hall of Famer, and it sucks that his career was cut short, because I think he really could have had a good long run and been a top-level star had he not gotten injured, because he just had this bigger-than-life personality that really translated well onto the screen, and people loved him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
And
why
he
I
could have turned them on a dime too, and made them like, we love him so much, and then he does dastardly things, and then we hate him.
I'm just gonna say this: he could permanently replace Booker T on the pre-show. I have enjoyed every time Big E has been on the pre-show. He is so smart. He is so personable. He's got a great personality for it. I adore.
And he
Big E.
didn't smoke a 3-foot bong before he went on air.
Yeah, he didn't take the world's biggest bong rip before he got on air like Booker T did. Can you dig that, sucker?
Ducky, ducky, quack,
Quack,
quack.
quack. And don't get me wrong, you know how much I love Booker T, and I have no problem with Booker T being on the pre-show. Every time his music hits, I pop every single time without question.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah! All right. So there were a couple of good things in my notes that I definitely want to put forth. After AEW went off the air this past week, Ruby Soho announced that she's pregnant. Good for her. And, AEW is going to be losing one of their talented females for the next several months. But, I mean, they've got Mercedes Moné. That makes up for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're very expensive Mercedes that they haven't taken out for a drive yet. It just sits there and idles on commentary.
Not everything that she does sounds extremely scripted and fake, right?
What a waste.
She's such a big star, right? Star that it warrants all the money that coked out Khan paid to her, right?
Cousin Jay,
right?
Her contract with AEW's worse than the contract that A, the Red Sox gave David Price, and B, the Giants gave Daniel Jones.
At least the Red Sox won a World Series with that man.
And Daniel Jones, at least Daniel Jones is.
He's thrown about as many pickoffs as he's gotten millions of dollars. Millions.
Hey, the one bright spot that Daniel Jones gave the Giants last year was those 3 weeks of pure bliss of having Tommy Cutlets as our starting quarterback. And the way that the general manager, and I really hope he's not pulling my leg or doing the whole smoke screen, Tommy DeVito better be back with the Giants next year, or I'm going to be very pissed.
Yes.
He earned that right. But I also thought it was interesting that they were congratulating Angelo Parker, who has been her kayfabe boyfriend on the show, like it's his kid or something. Unless they're actually dating in real life and I don't know it. But this could also be one of those things. It could be a storyline thing.
It could be a storyline thing. If they really want to be really progressive and really outside of the box, they could say Nyla Rose is the child's father.
I'm glad you mentioned Nyla Rose. It came out earlier this week that the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission does not want Nyla Rose wrestling in an AEW ring in the state of Oklahoma due to the fact that she was born a dude who now wrestles women.
To clarify this, if Nyla Rose was wrestling against other men, Oklahoma would have zero problem. It's just that somebody that's born a man who is larger than all the women, no matter how many hormones you take, it's not going to turn you into, it just isn't. Not going to turn you into a girl.
If AEW really wanted to try to win my good graces, not only do they book Nyla Rose in a match against another woman, they book her in a match against Riho.
By the way, Riho is outside of the country right now because of visa issues.
Somebody was like, she was on one of those videos with the video game playing it, and they were like, it's really sad when Riho's bigger than Adam Cole.
Sad.
I was like, Riho's like 92 pounds. I've taken shits bigger than Riho. Let's be serious.
Well, what the heck you call it? Was Riho that beat Nyla Rose for the first women's championship match, and I think beat her again later on.
Yep, she did. How I remember how Riho was the first AEW Women's Champion when I can't remember if I washed my hair in the shower most days.
I do a good job of remembering whether or not I wash my hair.
Well, yeah. Yeah? Good shit. I thought that was interesting.
In the comments, I don't care that Nyla was a man and now a woman. I love her and think she's a great talent, and that to me was very hurtful. All right.
It's just how it is in this day and age. It's just that people are going to make rules the way they want to make rules, and unfortunately, we're just at that point in this world where we have to be a little bit more progressive in everything.
Anyway, on a similar note to Ruby Soho, Logan Paul announced via Instagram that he and his fiance are also expecting, he said, and I quote, "We're going to have a new Paul in fall." Maybe it'll make up for the fact that his brother may die in a boxing match in July.
I want to see Mike Tyson knock out Jake Paul more than I want to see the Young Bucks leave the wrestling business.
I think it'd be great.
And that's another person is that Logan Paul's been getting a lot of ire from Ronda Rousey. She said that nobody got the attention that Logan Paul got. Look at Logan Paul in the ring and look at how you performed in the ring, Ronda. There's a thing called training. And it's not like he got all of his training in WWE. He even says it in his introduction, or they say it in his introduction. He's based out of Puerto Rico from Cleveland, Ohio. So he got all of his training in Puerto Rico as a wrestler. He might have went to NXT and learned at the Performance Center about how to learn the WWE.
From Shawn Michaels.
From Shawn Michaels, who's one of the best in the business to learn from. But it's like, come on. If you wanted to be a bigger star, you should have taken this a lot more seriously than you did Ronda Rousey. That's all. But, I'm happy for him. He said he wanted one of 3 kids, so one of 3 is on the way. Good on you, Logan Paul. Now you can drop the U.S. title to LA Knight at SummerSlam. Yeah.
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 All right. On the injury front, poor Matt Cardona. He finally had his dream match against Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge. And then a few weeks later, he tears his pectoral. He had surgery yesterday. He'll be back, but he ain't no spring chicken at this point. And, clearly this is going to be a good solid 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Of being outside of the ring. He's made more money in the last several years since he's been out of WWE than he did while he was in WWE. He is not hurting financially. He is fine.
eBay.
His wife is making an income. And, oh, by the way, he could go and do autograph signings. And the people who do autograph signings make solid money.
Yes, they do. Unless they're Virgil.
Rip.
Should be
another
WWE
person who does pretty well at autograph signings, who did make the right decision to not have a final match, Mick Foley, did say he feels like he is finally on the uptick after his most recent concussion, which was great news to hear.
Yes, I don't need to see Mick Foley in a death match at 60 years old.
Yeah.
Not when you're getting mild concussions from training lightly for the same thing. So,
yeah.
Mick, we want to see you for a long time, not for a good time.
Yeah. He's already given too much.
And I found out he was one of Harley Race's favorite wrestlers too.
Yeah, that was a very solid Dark Side of the Ring episode.
Harley Race, I think, is the second baddest man to ever wrestle after Haku.
Yes.
I have a whole appreciation for him now, Mr.
The King.
Yes, Harley Race.
Yeah. So, no easy segue to this, but there have been like little inklings out there. I shudder to even bring it up, but I have to. The dastardly Voldemort apparently is now putting up for sale all the rest of his TKO/Endeavor stock. I think it's fantastic that finally, once and for all, there will be 0% chance of that person coming back to spoil what has been built by his son-in-law in the last couple of years.
I will say this, and Chris Brown mentioned it to me earlier before the podcast, that there has been some rumblings, and he's not the only one because I've actually seen these rumors also online. There has been rumblings that Vince McMahon and the dastardly bucktooth beaver fuck are thinking about going into business and starting a new wrestling promotion.
Yeah.
And there is also speculation that Scott D'Amore and Vince Russo, of all people, are going to be involved in this.
Talk about a motley crew. The only name of that I'm like, oh, okay, Scott D'Amore.
Yeah. Who is the answer to all of AEW's problems, by the way.
I think Vince, at this point, there's a few things. They're not getting any sort of TV deal with the tarnish that's on that turd. If for whatever reason we find out that things are made up and he's exonerated, maybe he does start a company. Maybe.
And just remember, everybody, if Donald Trump wins in November, there is a very, very good chance that, unlike the Tiger King, he will pardon Vince McMahon of all of this, just like he's probably going to pardon himself. And if you want to make sure that not only does that not happen, but also you don't want to deal with 4 more years of this establishment running this country, you look past the Republican Party, you look past the Democratic Party, and you definitely don't want to put another Kennedy in office. I'm sorry. It didn't work out the last time.
Kennedy!
You need to go and get the Yeah Party and vote for the Brainless one and Cousin Jay in 2024 in November, the first Tuesday after the first Monday. And you make sure you tell everybody that you want to keep America brainless again. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. Hold on.
That's why it was perfect. That's why it was perfect.
Keep America brainless again.
Yes.
I'm making that a shirt. It's not gonna be like, what the? That's not even Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, our current president this week said, what the heck you call it? We need to have freedom instead of democracy, or something along those lines. And I'm like, man, he doesn't know whether it's Friday or Pluto.
Like I said, if you want the border shut immediately on January 21st, 2025, vote for the Brainless one. If you want to see China blown up off the map on January 22nd, 2025, vote for the Brainless one in November. If you want marijuana to be legalized throughout the country before 420 in 2025, vote for the Brainless one. If you are tired of the dementia patient and the angry Cheeto possibly running this country, vote for the Brainless one. Just remember, there's always an alternative. Like I said about AEW years ago, I'm not saying that I am the AEW of politics because I don't plan on having exploding sneakers or exploding rings of death that don't really explode or rings of death.
Harambe. Rip.
I just got to, like I said, 100 votes and I wax off the entire front of my chest and stomach. Live on the podcast.
I know you have at least one vote right here.
I mean, two. I'm voting for myself.
All right, let's see if we could get the effing wives to, up the ante.
And my father went out and made sure to tell me that no matter what I do, no matter what I say, no matter how hard I try, he will not vote for me. I've asked him 12 times already.
What if you secure him a big windfall at Churchill Downs, in a few short weeks?
I think he was upset about the fact that I was going to make somebody else my press secretary and it wasn't him. And then I had to explain to him, I'm sorry, Dad, but you're not an F and Marks Hall of Famer.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
All that being said, I would put the chances of the dastardly Voldemort starting a new wrestling company at next to 0. I am so sure that he won't start another wrestling company that I won't stake anything on it at all. But
if the over-under is a half, I'm taking the over on percentage that he starts a new company. If it's 1.5, I would say take the under. I would say there's about a 1%, just because they're gonna at least try to get it off the ground with all this money, and he's gonna have Bucky Beaver and Bro. Yeah, they're gonna try. It's not gonna work. They're not gonna because they're not gonna have any wrestlers. What are they gonna do? I mean, he could probably go and get Elias, so he could walk with him again. And it's not like he's gonna be able to. What is he gonna do? He's gonna get Eddie Edwards? He's gonna get Josh Alexander?
I mean, he has money to entice people, but his reputation is such that
this is the guy.
Like you would need to basically get everybody who's ever done something really shitty that the other two places wouldn't even touch them with a 10-foot pole. The only person that might go beyond that, John Cena loves Vince McMahon probably more than his father. John Cena might come over, and maybe he would give Bill Goldberg his retirement match.
He'll get Matt Riddle. Elias. I think Jimmy Havoc hasn't done anything.
Duke
Droese. There you go. There's your roster. There's your main event. Duke Droese versus Plumber Mox for the undisputed garbage can match title.
There we go. Tessa Blanchard, Enzo Amore,
Alberto Del Rio,
Oldberg, Ryback.
Oh God, yeah,
Ryback would not sign with Vince.
You have a better chance of Vince actually starting a wrestling promotion than you do of Ryback going to work for him in that promotion. Although they do say money, money talks.
Yeah.
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 I don't see it, but you know me, I love chaos, so I'm putting it at a 1% chance just because I want it to happen, just because it's going to be awful.
Right. All we're going to be getting is like damn video.
We're going to get beavers building dams and HCW quality matches. Where the Black Russians cut a promo on me.
You never know. I mean, Uncle Phil, maybe he stepped up his game a little bit, since before the pandemic. Maybe Kitty Litter Guy is, managing him now.
Could be.
You don't know. You just don't know.
That is very true. That is very, very true.
Anyway, I think that's all I got for my notes.
That's all I got for my notes. I guess it means that it is time for our good,
our bad,
and our brainless.
Yeah.
All right, Cousin Jay, what do you got for your good this week?
The dastardly Voldemort selling off very soon the rest of his stock in WWE, TKO, Endeavor, whatever you want to call it. That means that man will no longer have any association with the product that we see on Mondays and Fridays and
Tuesdays.
Nothing to do with it at all. It's just a company he used to own. That was my good this week. I'm very happy that Vince will soon be forever eradicated from the company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good shit. I can't argue that
one. Well, I know what it is. I'm not even going to say
it. Because all I'm going to do is, it's a shameful thing. Lobster head. All the Sheamus on my wall. Oh! Too many lines. Yeah. Like I said, not only is Sheamus being back and the fact that he got his entrance back, not only is it my good for this week, it is going to get some serious consideration for my markout moment of the year. Fuck you, Bucky Beaver. Sheamus rules supreme.
Yeah.
Yeah? What do you got for your bad?
There were a few ways I could have gone with this one, but I have to go. I don't think this is a sign of the times like back in the day where, you let like contracts like the now Malachi Black happen. And there were like several contracts that happened like that. I think there's just, a new company buying WWE. It sounds like the executive vice president of talent relations has not been on top of shit. And we have several high profile performers who have deals coming up that sounds like some of them have not even been contacted about being renewed.
Right. And that's not good business sense either.
No, it's disrespectful. Drew McIntyre has been with the company and been doing a really good job for like 7 years now. He took a couple of years away from the company after he was fired, but he had a solid run before that. You got Seth Franklin Rollins, who has been with the company for well over a decade at this point, and his contract is coming up pretty soon.
Natty Neidhart for almost 20 years.
And you got Becky Lynch, who has a deal coming up. She doesn't sound too concerned either way. Clearly, her and Seth have plenty of money that if they decided to take a year or two hiatus, no big deal financially for them. And if they feel like they're in that spot in their life and their career, they can. I don't think in the end they're going to do that, but the fact that it feels like negotiations have been slow to happen. Hey, if it's somebody like, let's say, I'm just throwing this name out there because, his name was in the news this week. If somebody like Drew Gulak, and this would be even before the stuff about Ronda Rousey came out,
right?
His contract was coming up. You're not sitting there, rushing to the front of the line to like make sure Drew Gulak is signed. He's not somebody that is putting butts in the seats like all those other. I wouldn't say Natty puts butts in the seats, but she is the one who always trains the people. One, that are coming back to the company. Two, if you need somebody to lose in a championship match to shine up that person, she is a good hand for that. She is more or less the female Dolph Ziggler. Just let her make people look good.
And the fact that she's starting to look like Stifler's mom.
That are very top level people in the company right now that had big storylines heading into the biggest show of the year. and you don't have them signed to new deals is just bad.
Yeah.
And it's disrespectful to Natty with all she's done for the company. The fact that her husband, Bret Hart's former paperboy, still works for the company, and, you have not really broached that topic with her. It's just a bit disrespectful. And maybe that's why that executive vice president of talent relations is gone.
Yeah.
That is my bad for this week.
Yeah, I'm going with Dave Meltzer. I mean, just between the fact that he said that the R-Truth and Miz and Triple H segment from Raw was not very good, the fact that he came out there and said he doesn't see what the allure is behind Trick Williams when clearly everybody else, except for Dave Meltzer, can see it. It just seems like ever since Punk made that comment about him in the Ariel Helwani interview that he's been very butthurt and has had sour grapes towards everything WWE has done lately. So to me, Dave Meltzer gets my bad, and it's because of the fact that he just doesn't look good doing any of this stuff because he looks like somebody who is in Tony Khan's back pocket when all of the AEW guys in a company that's been around for 5 years have more 5-star ratings than anybody in WWE, period.
Right. That's including Gunther.
And that's including Gunther, who's a GOAT, who is when you think of the perfect professional wrestler all around, it's Gunther. And it's not even close. By
the way you just described him tells me, you know what match we need to see? Randy Orton and Gunther.
Oh, God, yes. I want to see that. I want to see him and Cody. I want to see, hell, I'd see him and Sami Zayn again. I'd see him and Kevin Owens. I'd put Gunther in the ring with anybody and to be entertaining. You give me Gunther and Sheamus again? Okay. No, don't give me.
Specifically on commentary, JBL back in the day said, hey, if you were building a professional wrestler from the ground up, it'd look like Randy Orton. And you know what? He wasn't wrong. But, if Gunther is like kind of that modern day version of it, and he's transformed himself into that. Because like if you looked at him before, it's like, yeah, he looked like a big dude, but he did not look like the prototype of like, yes, that is what a professional wrestler should look like. He's turned himself into that.
Vince McMahon told him, dude, to lose some weight to look like $1 million, and the dude came in looking like $1 million, and Vince was pissed and was going to send him away on the 4th of July 2 years ago. And we never would have gotten the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, the true tribal chief of WWE in Gunther. But again, that's why Meltzer gets my bad, because he's a dumbass. What do you got for your Brainless?
Hey, I'm going with one of your favorites. Wrestling fans. Sheamus had a career-threatening injury. Sounds like up until recently, he wasn't sure if he'd ever step into a ring again. He's told, hey, by the way, you've been cleared. You're coming back into the ring. And Sheamus thought he had like another 2 or 3 weeks to kind of get himself together. Clearly, he was still lifting weights. Clearly, the dude is still jacked. He probably went from, 5% body fat up to like 10. Okay, so he's had a couple extra pints of Guinness.
He did just get married recently, and believe me, as somebody who's put on a pound or two after he got married, I completely understand.
But, the dude's been entertaining us for a really long time. He's in his mid-40s. And trust me when I tell you, it's a lot harder to keep yourself in shape that way when you're older. The Rock, during his press conference after WrestleMania, said, yeah, I think right after this, I'm going to go and have my cheat meal, because clearly the dude was eating nothing but like lean proteins and rabbit food.
Yep.
And I'm guessing to an extent, that's what Bobby Lashley does. That's what AJ Styles did. That's what Randy Orton did when they came back. Sheamus, on the other hand, is like, on that, my career might be over, probably chunked up just a bit, and like, oh, nope, you're cleared. But wrestling fans trying to body shame a guy that one can kick your ass any day of the week, and I'd say over 99.99999999999% of them is in better shape than you. Shut the hell up. Go back in your parents' basement. Think about your life and how it actually is like, it's pathetic that you're trying to shame this dude. I mean, I know we get on Cassius Ohno and it's kind of a joke.
It's funnier though.
Cassius Ohno was in his 30s, to be fair.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, we'd like you to get in better shape.
To be in the Shield.
And nope, not worth it.
No, guys. I can't get into shape and be in the Shield because if I get in shape and be in the Shield, I can't spend as much time in catering. Oh, no.
But, you know, we joke around about that. Like, clearly Cassius Ohno can beat the crap out of us. Clearly he's in better shape than us. But, like, with the people who are legit coming after Sheamus for that, like, get a life.
Y'all want to know how I really feel about Sheamus coming back? A little extra poundage around him. Go look at my Twitter at the Brainless or Brainless at Brainless Uno on Twitter X and look up my stuff. I'm sure there's at least a dozen tweets I liked that had Sheamus attached to it. I know I tweeted about Sheamus, and I didn't mention anything about the fact that he put on a couple of pounds because I don't care. My favorite wrestler is back, and I don't care what he looks like, especially because he doesn't have the stupid dreadlocks in his beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to take what you said, and I'm going to take it to a different level. I'm going with AEW fans going and getting my Brainless this week.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you all this much. For the longest time, I thought the Cowboy fans were the worst thing on planet Earth. Then for another longest time, because they're kind of, go hand in hand with each other, I thought it was Yankee fans. Constantly reminding me about 1918 and the fact that they have 27 championships and yeah. I thought it was Eagle fans for chucking snowballs at Santa Claus. I thought it was liberals because of the fact that I just don't agree with them politically. I thought it was a lot of different things. However, I have come to the foregone conclusion after yesterday that the worst thing that God has ever put on this planet is AEW fans. I would rather be stuck in a bus full of Yankee fans on my way to Yankee Stadium watching Yankeeography about Susan Waldman nonstop.
Narrated by Susan Waldman.
Followed up by an episode with Paul O'Neill and then another one after that with Alex Rodriguez and Don Zimmer, even though he's dead. I would rather watch the Eagles win and have their freaking flock of feathered fucks sing that stupid fight song than have to deal with AEW fans. This motherfucker, by the name of Willis Pagan, had the audacity to find out what it is when you fuck around and find out what the Brainless won. And why I am described as the pettiest man in all of America. I don't know if everybody has seen the picture that they have. It's kind of a meme. And it's a picture of AC Slater and Zach Morris and Mr. Belding and Screech and Lisa Turtle from Saved by the Bell. And they said Roman was AC Slater and Cody Rhodes was Zach Morris and Paul Heyman was Mr. Belding and Brandy Rhodes was Lisa Turtle and Screech was CM Punk. So I went on there and I commented on the picture and I said, I guess that means that AEW is Valley High. Playing into it because technically AEW and WWE are rivals just like Bayside was rivals with Valley.
With Valley.
And some dude said that I made that comment, can't keep AEW out of my mouth, and called me a snowflake. I said, buddy, all I was trying to do, I'm like, so it's okay for the page to make a joke about CM Punk being Screech, who was the dorky loser of the show, but I can't make a reference that AEW, who's WWE's rival, is Valley, which was Bayside's rival? And he's like, oh, so I guess it was okay for Triple H to make those comments about Will Ospreay, but it wasn't okay for Ospreay to make the comments about his wife and Triple H. And I'm like, what does that have to do with I was trying to make a joke about the post, about this is this, and this is why I fucking hate AEW fans. And he just kept antagonizing me. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to do this. Because two things is going to happen. Number one, I'm going to get banned from Facebook again. End up in Facebook jail next to Andy Dufresne, a.k.a. my father, and Gags the Clown and Sean O. We could all be cellmates together. But I said, no, I'm not going to do it because if I keep going, I'm going to say something ultra terrible, and this dude's going to cry in his mom's arms because that's what it is. So instead, I took the high road, and he found out what it's like to deal with the pettiest man in America. Because not only did I block him, I reported him to the Zuckerberg. And I came up with some kind of bullshit reason of why he needed to get reported. And I said, I don't care. He was harassing me. He was sexually harassing me, and get him off of Facebook. So Willis Pagan and every other fan of the Young Bucks, of AEW and all that stuff, you will always never be excluded from my Brainless, and you prove it to me every single day of your existence.
Yeah?
I will forever hate AEW fans. Anyway, if you like what you've seen, whether you are a first-time watcher or you continuous fan, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Unless you're an AEW fan, obviously. Because if you're an AEW fan, block us on all social media outlets. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to deal with you. If you think it's okay for some fucking douchebag to wrestle 9-year-old Chinese girls and blow-up dolls and other guys with the exploding sneakers who do laps in the ring celebrating a guy's termination, celebrating a guy losing his job in his hometown, then we're not the podcast for you. But if you're like our fans who tune in every single week, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter X, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T. Hold on. The letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N. I got all fired up, Jay. Even if I could read right now, I don't think I could. The letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKSTF, and marks. If you like, follow, and subscribe to us. Unless you're an AEW fan, we will do the same back. That has always been our
mantra. And make sure you set up notifications so that when we are live, you will be notified that we are live, whether it's on the X, whether it's on the Facebook, or whether it's on the YouTube, so that you could like, comment, and talk about our favorite sport that we all love to hate, professional wrestling. And make sure you subscribe to us on Spotify so you can take the show on the road wherever you may go, just so you know. Okay, bro?
Bro. And New York Jets football, the other thing that we hate to talk about. The sport that we love to hate to talk about, the Jets.
Stay out of my way. Listen to what I say, or you'll pay.
Their new uniforms are going to look real good when they go 8-1 this year.
And Aaron Rodgers gets injured in the third play of the year after he goes to the dark place and takes some magic mushrooms that expand his mind and make him more injury prone. And he's so smart that he doesn't realize that he's that dumb.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. I think that's it, though. Yeah,
I think that's covered everything. We got
our Jets hate in. We got our Cowboys hate in, although we have a little bit of love this week for the Cowboys. Little bit of love.
Physically impossible for me.
Little bit of love for a hat of a man.
Fair. Yes, a little less hate for the Cowboys. And
little less hate for the Cowboys this week.
And the Yankees. Go ahead, say it, Jay. And the Yankees, too.
And the Yankees.
Yeah, I know. That one hurts, too. I know. But that's okay.
Rip Uncle Ronnie.
The living legend himself. The koozie. The koozie shall live forever, Uncle Ron.
Yep.
But that's everything, I think. I think we covered all the bases. We got our hatred for AEW in there, how I can't stand their fans, how they're the worst thing in this world. I did my top 10. We did our good, bad, and brainless. That's everything.
Absolutely everything. Nothing left for us to talk about or cover.
Whoa,
What's that, Brain?
hold on a second.
Wait.
Curtis Axel, you know what? I'm actually kind of glad you're here because before we go into our spiel, I need to know, since there are at least 3, maybe 4 members of the Wyatt Six that are potentially going to be returning or coming into WWE, do we see you as a member of the Wyatt Six? Well, Brainless One, I will answer that by saying this. And what is that, Curtis Axel? That is today, April 19th of 2024, at an incredible 3,372 days, I, Evan Mark Hall of Famer, is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble. D'Lo Brown. Yeah?
Yeah!
Anyway, for episode 356 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the Evan Marks.
I'm Jay. He is.
I am the Brainless One who surprisingly still has a voice. Make sure you mark out
with your guac out. See you, everyone.
Thanks for
Chris
tuning in.
Brown, I am so glad that you are in tears over there. We're glad we could entertain y'all. And
was this something I said?
Well, I yeah, something like that.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll catch you all next week. And I'm sure, don't worry, there's 7 days for AEW to piss me off.
Or their fans.
Or, no, that's a given. Yeah?
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 All right, everybody. Y'all
Later.
have a good week. We will
Thanks
catch
for
up
tuning
with
in.
you later.
Yeah?
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 Yeah?